Hello and welcome to the Nash Tackle Off the Hook podcast. Just to make you aware, this podcast may contain some explicit/offensive language, and if that's not your thing, you don't have to listen, but I have given you a warning. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
You don't know the half of it, but anyway. I'm skating on the thinnest ice known to man.
He said, and they put a poison in the tank that just instantly kills them. He went and we'd run out of it, so we cut their heads off with shovels.
Suddenly, bang! The whole boat exploded.
Take your sort of 8-inch long piranha and imagine that at 4, 5, maybe 6 feet.
I said, I've revived your dead fish. F off, he said. You haven't.
That was just humongous. It was... I couldn't believe what I was looking at.
I'm just battling this fish out and I know it's a black man. I'm saying I'll never be a naughty boy again.
If you catch fish and you return them to the water, then you are my brother.
Alan Blair, Dan Yeomans, welcome to the podcast, boys. How are you? It's been a long time.
You're not recording?
I am. It's red.
Hello.
You went to all the effort of getting me headphones, but I haven't got them.
No, you said you didn't want headphones, so I got Dan some headphones. And you said,
Okay,
no,
cool.
I'm
Cool.
Do you want some?
No, perfect, mate.
Do you want some?
No, I'm fine. Sorry.
You're a bit quiet, actually.
Should I put headphones on?
No, I'm joking.
Right in his head. How are you, boys? It's been a long time since I've seen you. Too long, I think. Been
I'm
busy.
Right. I'm all right.
How long has it been?
Alan's very tired this morning. We're quite early this morning, but
It's not early.
Well, not as early as Alan wanted, but...
I'm not going to lie, I'm tired, yeah. A lot of people I've noticed a lot of comments lately in videos. Oh, you look a bit tired. Yeah, I'm really tired. Is that okay?
That's okay to be tired, mate. You've had a good trip, though. You come back from Thailand, haven't you?
Yeah, it seems a world away now, though.
It's not that long ago, though, is
It feels it. It feels it. Thailand was incredible. Yeah.
Back to reality.
Yeah, I've just come back from Poland. That was also incredible.
Yeah, I did see that on the old Insta. That
I really
busy.
enjoyed. Yeah.
Nice. Dan, busy? Fishing? You done a bit?
Yeah, I've just come back from Germany last week. I was in Germany. And
But a year of fishing, really, haven't you?
Yeah, honestly, being in front of the camera is so good.
No, I'm not looking back now.
So much better. Whether, like, all these films will come out next year, whether people actually like me is a different story. Because if they don't, Dan's back behind the camera.
Nah, of course they will, mate. You've done well as well, haven't you? Caught a few.
Caught a few, yeah. Not as well as Henry. Doesn't he let me know it? Jesus.
God, Henry, mate.
Full time.
He's basically caught, if you added us all together, including Ollie and everyone, Henry's caught more better fish than everyone put together.
Do we have to do this?
It's true, Henry, mate. I've massive respect, right? The marketing department's gone to shit, but... I take that back. I totally take that. It was a very bad joke. Henry's managed to hold down a very important full-time job and deliver on all accounts and go away and fish his heart out.
Good
really fish his heart out.
Yeah, Henry's done something very clever in terms of, because he's single, he's got no commitments, he's a young man. He's just gone, I'm just going to book a few mega trips, along with his work trips, like Blair, just book Blair and just like have the time of his life. He's going away with Samir in a couple of weeks, like spent a bit of money, but he's just gone committed to a couple of big trips. And
good lad.
Yeah, he's got an album full this year.
Yeah, he has, mate.
Yeah.
Special
Fair
ones
play
as well,
him.
big uns.
Done a bit in the UK as well, which leads me on to a very funny story.
I knew it was coming.
I thought we were talking about the new film that was coming out.
We are going to talk about
I have to tell this story because Henry's told me this. It's actually a bit ago now, but I wanted to wait until I was on a podcast to be able to tell the people because I feel like...
Do I know it?
Nah, I've not told you because it's so
You
good.
must know this out. Most people.
To be
in the
fair, I said to him, "Can I tell it?" And he was like, "Yeah, right." But every time I come on a podcast, I tell a funny story like barn owls, and then I get loads of people. And the Nash story when he saw the Sticky Boys and went, Nash. He's a calamity. But he's been he's discovered poaching. Well, he thinks he discovered poaching. I think he thinks he invented it. He will never let us. He comes into the office, doesn't he? And he's just like, yeah, been poaching at the weekend. It's not that cool, mate. You know, settle down. But he had this really cool bit of fishing. Wasn't meant to be there, bit of guesting. Catching some really cool fish. Henry couldn't poach an egg, you know.
I'll vouch for that.
Sure, he can go catch him, but I don't know a campaign where he's been guesting somewhere where he hasn't been caught. He's
It's an apprenticeship, Henry. He's getting better.
Yeah, he's getting better, but he's a lummox. You know, he's not.
He's a big lump, though, isn't he?
And he's not subtle.
No.
Like the first time he got caught in this venue, I was ringing it. I was on the phone to him, and he was getting down there at like 4 p.m. and he was going out in a bright orange dinghy
With a yellow rod.
Good angle.
Yeah, and I'm like, why don't you just wait 4 hours till like 9:30, right on twilight? Wait 5 hours, just do it in the dark. It's not hard. Like, no one's going to catch you. No one's ever going to catch me. 2 weeks later, he got caught. This is one of the things. This is one of the things he said. He found a Virgin Cola can. Can you remember Virgin Cola?
Yeah.
What was that? 10 years ago?
Yeah,
Silver
so-
colour.
Yeah. He found one of them in like the undergrowth, and he thought, well, if that's 10 years old, that means no one's picked it up. No one's been here for 10 years. No one's going to find me. Obviously, he got caught. He went back the following year, got caught. He was putting trail cams up to see if anyone was like coming into his swim and that. And he got caught on camera.
His own camera.
This bloke coming up and going, "You're not allowed to fish here, mate." And he was like, "Oh, sorry." But we've got the footage on his trail cam, which is quite good. And then this is year 3, and it was his final year. He was going to pull off soon anyway, and he'd actually gone down for one more session.
God, he had it off as well this
Yeah,
year.
he's had an
he'd done
amazing
well.
year. Like several 30-pounders. Like caught. If someone's poached there before, they've caught them. Maybe not. Like a lot of them potentially never been caught before. Wicked fish. Loads of them. And he was going down and having like 4 in the afternoon, then going home and that. But yeah, on this last session, so to try and paint a picture, because I've been there with him before, paint a picture of the swim. It's like this big nature reserve-y, overgrown part, and then it's like kind of off the side of this big reservoir. But it's like, to get there, it's just this bog. It's, you know, the thickest undergrowth. But as you get to the lake, there's this big mound which, you know, comes up onto a high bank and then steep slopes down to the lake. Any normal person would have their rods down by the lake in the undergrowth. If you're really carpy, you'd have one of them scarves and put it over it, you know, like you see on the photos. No one's going to see you, and then you'd hide behind the mound, out of sight. Not Henry. Not Henry Lennon.
Don't say fish from the top.
Oh, he fishes from the top.
With his lines going down.
Tips up. two great dirty rods, like on the skyline.
Oh, wow.
And his bed chair there, boom. But no one. It's absolutely solid overgrown. No one can really get in and out. How he gets in is a ball ache. Like so. To be fair, he's pretty confident. He's not been seen from. There's no vantage points to see him, so he's fishing there, and he's had 2 and lost 1, I think, at this point. And he'd only been there a couple of hours. Last session, I'm going to catch some big and like uncaught fish, like. And it's 9 o'clock, and he's feeling pretty happy with himself, and he's got his rods out. And there is some fishing on the lake. There's some trout fishing, and he can hear the boats, but they're like on the other side of some bridge or on the other side of like just around the corner, and he can hear them, but he's not too fussed. And he's feeling pretty happy with himself. And so this is the bit you don't know. He thought he'd treat himself to a wank. You see where this is going now, don't you?
God.
So Henry's there on his bed chair, phone in hand, cock in the other hand,
You said he was about to pull off.
and he's on the high bank, and he can hear this drone from a boat, and he thinks it's miles away. And before you know, like, he just turns around, and there's a boat in the nature reserve. He's never seen a boat in the nature reserve. They don't come in there, and there's a boat in the nature reserve. Not only is it in the nature reserve, there's 2 people on it. Not only is there 2 people on it, they're coming straight for him.
You said they got a drone up as well.
Nah.
Oh, right.
Oh,
okay.
you could hear the drone from the boat engine.
Ah, the drone. Sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
they tracked him down with the use of a drone.
Nah. They could hear. You could hear like the drum of the engine, and they're like 70 yards away, coming straight for him. He's on the high bank, bed chair out, cock in hand, phone in hand, and there's a little lad on the back with an engine, and a bloke on the front with binos. got his binoculars on him. Henry's fucking struggling, put his knob away in that. And yeah, they've come straight over and said, what the fuck are you doing? He's had a big long argument
Did
with
they
him.
bring that up? What
He didn't mention it apparently, but I reckon he was sat there with a rock on in his shorts.
Bino man would have spied that.
Yeah, he said he didn't spot him for ages. Like, they were really close, and they must have been gunning towards him for so long before he's realised there's a boat right there.
Campaign over.
Yeah,
But at least he caught him.
yeah. But he was there, and he was just got caught having a wank. Caught with his pants down.
That's yeah.
And I know I make up stories about Wilson back in the day. Oh, Wilson was crying.
I saw Wilson this morning.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Crying?
No, he was in a very good mood.
I wasn't crying.
Joy.
But yeah, I made them up. They were just. I was just like, this is genuinely.
Yeah, that is
100%. But
true.
my heart. That's what happened. He told me. He actually sent me a voice note going, "Oh, I've been caught. It's over." And da, da, da. And because he got caught, he drove straight down to see me and come. I was fishing at the time, but I said, "Why didn't you tell me on the voice note?" He's like, "I'm not leaving evidence of that." But now
True. It's out there.
now
You
it's
all
out
know
there.
now. Henry Lennon.
Yeah. There was another real funny one which I can't remember. I was going to tell 2 fake stories and 1 real one and let the viewers guess. But yeah, that's what happened.
Legit.
Yeah, that's the last time he
There'll
got
be
caught.
plenty more, mate. He's out and about a bit.
Oh,
By
without doubt.
Christmas, there'll be a full stock of new Henry Lennon stories, mate.
Yeah. Calamity.
He is an absolute liability as the man. But we're here to talk about the video at this point should be released, but we are recording this before it's released.
Yeah.
Talk to me, you boys. Well, Al initially in terms of getting on there, but then you boys in terms of making it a piece. Talk to me about why you ended up in and that exact location.
We definitely should have done this podcast about just over a year ago now.
Longer, man.
No, we finished July last year,
Okay.
I think. Yeah, it was July. We finished July last year. We started 2 years ago.
But basically, what happened was the last session before the first lockdown was announced. I don't know where you went, Hassan, but we kind of knew something was on the cusp of happening.
Yeah.
And I remember sort of being really conscious of this. And I took myself down to, you'll have seen the videos, like Carl and Alex fished the farm pond. I think Carl's actually making a film there at the moment, and another film, but they did a couple of films down there. I rung the farmer and said, is there any chance of going down? And I took myself down there for 48 hours, 36 hours, something like that, knowing that this was going to be the end kind of thing. And it was really good, man. Caught some lovely fish, pretty much had it to myself. There was a couple of lads up the other end. I remember in that session thinking, wow, like the country, the world is going into this state of disarray. What's going to happen? And I suppose selfishly you start to think about yourself, you know, what's going to happen to Nash? What about the kid? You know, all these thoughts are going through your head. And I just remember sitting there thinking, my fishing, like, what am I going to do? Because pre that, I've just been gallivanting around Europe,
Yeah.
having the best time, you know, whether that be in a Eurobanks film or working away at shows and shop days, but basically getting to see lots of amazing countries over in Europe. And that's been the bulk of my angling for many years now. Zero in England, unless the boys say I've got to go and do a specific shoot. I haven't had no syndicate tickets, not been a member of any clubs. Don't get me wrong, lots of people send me complimentary tickets. I had a Ways in Gold card for 3 years, never went. You know, I've got lots of tickets, but never use any of them, which is really kind of them. But my fishing's all been done over there, and I remember thinking, that's it. The rug's been pulled. And then throughout lockdown, obviously lots of things shut down. The business, but I was sort of overconscious that.
So this is March, April, May 2020.
Yeah, I think it was like we would speak every day or every other day, and yeah, like you can't just let everything completely grind to a halt. You know, you can't sit there and go, well, can't make films anymore, can't go fishing anymore, kind of thing. So I had to really sort of analyse what we could do, what was viable. Dan will say it, you know, he was so disappointed. We were both despondent at times.
Yeah, of course.
You could be going into a shoot and then another lockdown would be enforced, or more regulations are coming, or another new vaccine, or whatever it is. You constantly have the blocks put
No
on.
night fishing or days only or like.
Yeah, mad.
So yeah, I don't know what month it was, but I was like, no, I've got to imagine that we can't go to Europe anymore, can't do any more of these big trips, and I'm going to have to find something in the UK that kind of ticked 2 boxes. It gave me that joy of angling, which is what I love. I love going fishing. I needed something that ticked that box so I'd enjoy it like I was enjoying these European trips, with that element of freedom, which is a big part of why I do enjoy them so much. And also with the opportunity to make a film from it. Cue this new film that we've shot.
How'd you get there then? Why that particular location? Because it's not an easy thing to find when you think of the typical sort of syndicate scene, that freedom that you talked about, that element that you sort of enjoy, rather than maybe being put on somewhere with work fishing, for example, because you're shooting. That's quite hard to find.
Really hard, Hassan.
In this country.
And I'd kind of almost got to the point, after 5-10 years of realising or believing didn't exist anymore in the UK. It was it was nothing but a distant memory from my childhood of these kind of venues. Even if you look at like the Cambridgeshire, for example, where you've got these big pits and big reserves, I would still have the disappointment 100%. If I joined Fen, for example, or I'd still have the disappointment of some of the sessions in a year getting there and not being able to get into the bit of water I wanted, because our country's not overrun. There is so many people fishing in the UK now.
Yeah.
It's a very selfish thing, basically. I want the fishing to myself.
Yeah.
Like I had as a child. Back then, I could join a club ticket. You pay 30 quid. There'd be countless gravel pits on the ticket and stretches of river or canal. And if you got to a venue and it was a little bit busy, a couple of anglers on, you just go to somewhere else, and you could build your own swims and definitely pre-bait. I grew up understanding the importance or the virtues of how effective free food to carp is. And in later years, the last decade or so, it's bloody hard to get a bit of bait in without someone fishing over the top of it, or someone else coming in an hour later and putting a bit more bait over the top of it. That's not being negative. That's just the realities of the British fishing scene. And you speak to all the guys over in Europe, they're desperate to get over here. Honestly, I had it at the weekend. A young lad in a tackle shop in Poland, he was like, my dream is to fish in England. Like I said, mate, my dream is to fish in Poland. And we had this conversation about the pros and cons of each, anyway, I needed to really rack my brain, think long and hard about, is there somewhere in the UK that I could go and have the adventure, have the freedom, a lot of sort of deep thought. I remember a conversation with John Bailey. It's actually a trip that you and I went on. We took a morning out of the office and went up to meet John.
Well, we were always planning something, weren't we?
Something with John?
Yeah, we were always planning something.
Right, okay.
But yeah, we had something in the back. We knew we wanted to do something a bit different to urban banks, running around, being crazy. Like we always said, we want to find a bit of quintessential England, didn't we?
That's probably a really important point to note. Everyone associates me with high pace, urban banks, drum and bass, vans, Red Bulls, multi venues, fish, which I love.
Yeah,
but I also grew up fishing very, very quiet venues, and I love that. It was just it disappeared over the years, over the decades, as the venues became more and more busy. And actually, I preferred going to the more urban locations where actually there were yet again less anglers, because the majority of people choose not to fish venues like that.
Yeah.
So I was finding it in a different way.
Yeah, I get you.
Do you know what I mean? We got a park lake down here. And there's other lakes in the area, actually, that aren't expensive Essex syndicates. You could kind of creep in there late at night, put a handful of boilies in the edge, do that for 2 or 3 nights, go back and fish, whether that be a part. And it just felt like I was fishing again. I just want to be fishing, Hassan.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's the thing.
I remember you saying as well on a podcast when we talked about your sort of coming into Nash and fishing, you tried the whole ticket thing and it didn't fulfill your fishing, if you like, in terms of what you wanted. Freedom,
I've been a big believer in, I go fishing because I absolutely love it. Yeah, yes, there's huge elements of work involved in it, but I chose this career path because it's what I love, and I love fishing. What I don't love is working really hard, getting to the venue and not being able to fish. That's not a bit of me, and therefore I will always pick the venue to make my fishing enjoyable.
But I think as well, any anchor, going back to the Urban Banks thing, and everyone associates you with that, I think there isn't an angler in the country who doesn't want absolute immersion in nature and complete and utter solitude and freedom. Imagine having a lake with no one there, a playground you can do whatever you want with, and you're just in the thick of nature. You can't hear a road. And surely that's what everyone... I might be wrong, but that is the ultimate goal for me.
And I just had to step away from that because it became almost impossible to find. And I ticked the boxes I wanted by fishing these more urban venues.
So we wanted to do something which had Alan in a completely different light, where we did go and do something a bit more long term, but we didn't really know what, without going to Dinton or the Fendrayton, or try and find some big natural, I don't know, just what was different. We always look for different, and what was different. It's not different in certain sense of like films that have come out, because there's loads of films out, but like different for Al. And we'd been speaking to John Bailey, who's an
good
absolute
friend,
gentleman and legend. It all started off that Mortimer and Whitehouse thing. Yeah, that's when you first got back in touch with him.
Yeah, I've filmed with him a few times over the years. I've been fishing with him just on a personal level a few times. He's a great guy.
Legend.
He's a legend, man. I love him. And then this Mortimer Whitehouse thing come up. I couldn't go, so you and Tom went and did it for me.
Yeah,
you got on really well with him, of course.
But that got you chatting again, didn't it?
Got us chatting again, and then I think we went and did a winter pike fishing session together.
That's right, as a thank you.
Maybe a couple.
Yeah.
We went piking with him, and
that was it.
It was at that point, you have a good feeding spell in the morning, but there's that period in the day when it's a little bit quieter, and out comes the picnic and the coffees, and we were the rods got reeled in, and we were sitting chatting, and he just mentions yet again that he'd been guiding, and one of his customers had caught a 52-pound common. Excuse me, John.
Yeah,
excuse me.
Mate.
How do they catch? Oh yeah, just on
I never really associated him with carp fishing though. I never I knew he was a good angler, but I knew he was an incredible fly angler, pike angler, trout fishing, coarse fishing. He's caught
roach.
He's caught 800 plus 2 pound plus river roach. 800 2-pound river roach. Incredible, but no, I never thought carp fishing. And then he just said that all nonchalantly, he had a 52. I was like, okay, well, back up, mate.
Yeah.
What's that?
That was where it died.
Yeah, because it was there was another lake on that complex. And he was like, yeah, it's just there. You what, mate? Just a little lake over there. It's 2 acres. You what? And then we started chatting to him about carp fishing. What do you know, John? What do you know? And
he's basically grown up in this valley, and he knows every bit of blue, every single bit of blue, wealth of knowledge. And we then started to tap into that knowledge.
And how it's all developed over 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
50 years maybe. Not just every bit of water, but what every bit of water was like 30 years ago and 20 years ago and 10 years ago, and what it's like now. He knew it all. 'Cause he's been there and he's fished it and stocked some of it.
Yeah, he's a proper boy for contacts. When I spoke to him, I did a podcast, went around his house, and he was talking about venues, and you could tell just then he'd be one of the lads that you just go, John, I need to catch a big barbel. Where do I go? And he'd be like, go there this time of year, job done. So yeah, definitely a good call. But that sort of sparked a
couple of phone calls and some emails, and then we went to meet him for this morning, and we went for a walk round 3 venues. And the first one was a big complex of gravel pits, which you and I just fell in love with, man. So what's the crack then, John? What do you mean? Well, how many people are fishing it? No one.
It's mine.
No one.
I run it.
No one. There was 8 lakes or something.
8 lakes.
8 lakes
no
ranging.
one on it.
8 gravel pits going from probably 8 or 9 acres down
to half an acre.
To half an acre. all there, all like
He's
back to
up.
back.
Well, it was me, like with a pair of glasses on the bank. Dan with glass. Dan's gone up like the biggest tree imaginable. He's at the top of the tree. I'm down below, and we're like scouting around everywhere. And he's like, "There's 3. There's one ghosting over this bar, and there's one dropping down." We were just like, it was mind blowing stuff. And at this point, this was me being 12, 13, 14, 13 years old is when I was out doing it on my own. 13, 14. This was me again. This was me at those complex gravel pits with no one else there, where you're pushing your way through the reeds, fighting your way through the brambles, climbing up trees, and you're seeing carp for the first time, and you're going, yeah, that was it. That was the young boy
And
again.
so we were like, we were baffled. I kept asking him the same question. Can you remember that morning was mental? I was there going, so you run them, yeah. No one else fishes them, no. Why? He's like, I just use them for guiding.
Bream.
Okay.
They're good bream waters.
How often? 4 times a summer, 5 times a summer. And so he'll go down with a client to go tench fishing of a morning, 6 times a summer.
And there's no other
No,
anglers.
0.
And it's just untied. Oh, yeah, occasionally we'll hook into a carp. I think we had one about 32. I'm like, what are you talking about?
You just
Like,
kind of know as well. Like
Yeah.
what we could see was just very black carp. You know, water clarity was fantastic, but you could just imagine one of these being lifted, like what it would actually look like.
Yeah.
Them type of carp.
And that was venue 1 of 3 we were going to look at that
So we
day.
did that one, yeah, and we were already like on the walk back to the motor. Yeah, we'll put underwater cameras in here. We'll have a boat on this one. We can build. Yeah, it's all just like getting really carried away. And then we went to look at another one, which was actually a syndicate, which we'll come back to because it's the one I ended up joining the syndicate, and we made the first film there. But yeah, it's a syndicate. You know, there's no
Right?
Yeah, it wasn't
yeah,
like
yeah.
private or.
But I'm guessing for your element of freedom, there weren't a great deal of people actually fishing the venue. Was there?
At the time, I didn't really know. John just said it was quite quiet. It was, again, another venue that he'd use to guide clients on.
Okay.
At the time when Dan and I went to look at it, we didn't meet with the landowner. We just walked and looked at, it's 2 lakes. We looked at both of the lakes. And yeah, at the time, we never thought we were going to make a film there, really, did we? I think
No.
out of all of the venues, we were probably least interested in this one in comparison to the other two.
This one for me was the most, like, visually was the most, oh my God. We'll get onto it because, like I say, this is what this podcast is about, is this venue. But I remember going there.
We went there and they were spawning.
They were spawning.
Yeah, that so it was like May-ish time.
But we
and-
walked up on this high bank and I just looked at it and it was just alder trees encroaching the entire lake and just lily pads across the entire lake. Deep, like gin clear water. You could see like 12, 14 foot down the shelf. And we just stood there like,
Wow.
what on earth is this place? Like,
Again, very much like being a kid, you know, with access or, you know, just walking across a farmer's field to a lake and going, wow, this looks like it was pretty special.
and then we said to John, like, okay, what's in there? He goes, well, don't really know because a lot of people, there's 2 lakes. The 10 members fish the front lake. No one fishes this back lake. But again, we'll get onto all this. And he goes, 5 years ago, someone fished it out of 40 pounder, 44 pound common. I was like, well, no one's fished it. Some people fished a little bit after that, but then they didn't. Then they stopped. So we were just like, these places don't exist, John. Like,
If that was anywhere like here or even up north or wherever, if somebody said they caught a 44 pounder, there'd be people around it consistently, mate.
yeah,
wouldn't there?
just amazing. But then, yeah. Anyway, we left. We then went on to venue
These were
number
quite
3.
quick. For an hour there, half an hour there.
Walk around, up a tree, down a tree, back out. Yeah.
And then we went to the third and final one, which again was just like head loss, total head loss.
This was the one
really
he
special.
originally told us about when we were pike fishing.
Yeah.
This was the other lake just over there on the complex where he takes his carp fishing clients and he catches them big uns.
This is the 50 pounder lake.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What was that like? Similar
So-
lily pad?
To put it into, this is how he told me that story originally when we were pike fishing. He said, I don't think he said he'd caught. I think he said the biggest one they'd had that summer was 48 pound common. They've had several fish between 42 and 48 pounds over the years. He only goes and fishes it once or twice a year. Like, it's days only, 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. And he says, but the 5 biggest fish we've seen in the water are all mirrors. I'm like thinking, but you've caught a 48 pound common, but the 5 biggest are mirrors. He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we lost one, which I put, the angler said it was 56, but I put it at 53. I was just like,
Yeah.
what there, John? And this is why we did it. Sorry, John, if you're listening. I didn't believe him.
Yeah.
Didn't believe him. Really, I thought, yeah.
It's so easier as a fisherman, isn't it? To
It was this big.
Like, not that we're doubting John, but I'm as guilty as it as the next.
I was
like,
doubting John. Sorry, John. I was like, nah, no
How
way.
big's that lake?
Because John
Not
didn't.
massive, mate.
2 acres. John isn't in the carp scene like we are,
Yeah.
and we know that's unheard of. That is mental. Like, that doesn't happen in this day and age.
No.
And so this is why I was like, no, it's not true. Can't be. And I think that's originally why we're like, we need to have a look at this in the summer. We're depths of winter now. I'm not going to go walk over to that lake, but now we're in May when he's taking us around these lakes. That's why we organised that day, so we can go have a look for ourselves and see what's in there.
So you see anything in that lake when you went?
Yeah. We didn't see any real giants. Like, it's quite hard to tell, innit? You need. It depends at what perspective and what angle you see them, but we certainly saw fish around the 40 pound mark. We certainly saw some very, very old, scaly ones that were 30 pound-ish, mid to upper 20s, 30, low 30s. Not loads, but enough to really get us both buzzing.
I was buzzing.
Like, the first thing we saw, like, you walk in there and, you know, if anyone's watching this thinking, what a 2 acre puddle, how are the fish doing so well? There's a lot of water going through them. A lot of water, like a huge turnover of water, a lot of natural food, and they've just got a perfect home. And angling doesn't exist, no pressure.
Yeah.
So that's why they've achieved the weights they've achieved and stuff. And yeah, our first sort of sighting was like peering over this edge. There's water thumping through. And there's this, was it 2?
Yeah.
2 big commons, mate, just like barbel, like gliding in and out of the flow. Like,
Again, just
sucking in a bit of gravel,
clear.
spitting it out, and just like, fuck.
See every detail and every scale of them. It was so clear.
Oh, mate.
Yeah,
John's
yeah.
not told me about this place at
Yeah.
all.
Oh, he
in this
wouldn't.
Podcast.
He wouldn't.
It was something
Because-
else.
Spoiler alert, this was episode 2. You know, after this first campaign, we went here. Mate, it took us... So that, I think that walk around was 2019.
Was it?
Yeah.
2019. It took us like...
Yeah, this is like, yeah.
Yeah, it took us 3 years, because we started on that one last year. 3 years to get John to give us permission to go
Yeah,
there.
well, rightly so. mate.
Not even just to fish it, like, to film it as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's special, mate.
Yeah.
It's special.
That
But-
is mad.
We walked away from that day with John going, he doesn't know what he's shown us. He doesn't.
So this actually now, sorry, I've confused myself. This is well before there was even a coronavirus, isn't it?
Yeah, this was.
Yeah, I get it now. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was then in lockdown. I'm remembering all the venues I've been spoken to about, and then that's when it
he,
came back
he
up
showed
again.
us these lakes because we had this idea of doing something with Alan. We didn't really know how far we were going to go. We were talking underwater. We were talking all sorts of different things as a concept for a film. We wanted to make like a full-on documentary about something, but like it was all just how many ideas were getting chucked around.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention them, but there were some mental ones.
Yeah, there was some pretty mental ones.
No jet skis again, mate.
Oh, much more mental
Go
than a
jet
jet
skis,
ski,
go
mate.
10
Like,
times.
no.
But you know, but we didn't know what to do. But we knew we had them now. We had these venues which were just.
special.
I cannot put into words how much they do. It's going back to what we said. We feel like, or you kind of get to feel like, especially in the industry, every stone's turned. You know, there's a lot of lakes where there's just not much unknown anymore. There's lakes which you aren't allowed to fish, and people go, "There's a few big ones in there." Like, you know, there's that one up at in Cambridgeshire, Poaching Pit. It's not. It's the linear
there
fisheries
is.
of Cambridgeshire.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's 10 anglers on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
It is hard now.
But these places were like, dare I say it? It's like Redmire stuff. Do you know what I mean? That lake just in the middle of a field in the middle of a valley, just lost, miles from nowhere. Like,
and the other thing with it is, you know, when I got the ticket, so let's fast forward a little bit now. I've actually joined one, but it's irrelevant. You won't find anything on all three of them.
no,
Go on the internet. and type in the name of the farm or the land or the area or keywords or things that other people might have called it. Maybe I've spoke to a local tackle shop and they knew something about it. But actually on the big World Wide Web, zero.
and I am great at
Zero.
stalking. I'm amazing at stalking.
Which is that was great.
I found one small blog entry from like 2002.
Was it not the farmer's son or nephew or something?
Not blog entry, an old forum entry. This is how deep I went.
Forum.
A forum entry from like 2002 saying so and so's nephew had a 26-pounder from these lakes.
Yeah.
That was it.
That made it really
No
exciting.
pictures, just
I don't think I know of a lake where I could go on the internet and not get
something.
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
That made it
We've
really
been
good.
planning some film that we're hopefully going to shoot in a month or so at a country that right out there, don't think it's ever been catfished before. We found something on it.
Oh yeah.
We found something.
Don't get me wrong, we're not sitting here saying that they've never been fished, and these because they absolutely have been fished. But clearly, the anglers who'd fished them were of a sort of ilk where they're not the type to be trapping off all over Instagram or publishing their pictures, because these fish have definitely been fished for.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the first one we referenced with all the complex of gravel pits, but certainly the syndicate lakes. You know what I mean? Of course they've been caught. It's a syndicate.
Yeah.
They just obviously choose to not
Put it out
tout it
there.
all
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the place.
So you started with the syndicate.
So now we're in lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I can't remember the dates, sorry, Hassan, but basically we were allowed to travel again. It was literally the moment we were allowed to travel more than 10 miles or whatever it was, whatever that rule was. And literally the first thing I organised was to go and meet with John and the landowner to get a ticket for this syndicate, because that was it now. I knew that coronavirus wasn't going away. I knew that all our big plans in Europe were going to be cancelled, and it was twofold. One, it would give me somewhere to do a little bit of fishing, but more importantly, it would be a safety net to ensure we could produce some content for Nash.
Why choose that one?
John lost access to the other gravel pits, which was a massive, massive shame, because 100% I would have gone there.
Yeah.
Just because I think Dan referenced 10. There's actually like half a dozen to 15 members on the syndicate. And if I'd have known that, 15 members over 0 members, I would have took the 0 members for the freedom and the use of boats and a whole host of other reasons. That would have been my number one first choice. Sadly, that didn't work out. Obviously, the one we've talked about with these bigger carp in wasn't an option. You know, all the bribes in the world, all the money in the world.
What did you chuck
You
at
ain't
him?
get. You ain't
You
getting
must
on
have
there.
chucked whack some money at him.
We can't. We don't want to talk about it now, do we? Because it'll be another podcast when.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, my only real option was to carry on fishing at Chigborough or go and get a syndicate ticket, and I haven't had one for years, so I joined the syndicate. And I remember meeting with a farmer. It was all very weird. We all stood in like a triangle, like 3 meters apart. It was one of them shit corona moments. But he was lovely. He was firm, but he was lovely, you know. And he said that he'd get his PA to send me the lake rules, but it was all very relaxed. And I kind of paid my money. And I remember almost saying goodbye to him and walking off, but I was a bit nervous because he was a big farmer, you know. And but I remember having this really important question which hadn't been discussed, and that was, how many members are there? He's like, oh, it's a busy year this year. And I was like, oh no, hell, John, you told me it'd be really quiet. Like, and he's like, yeah, I think there's 13. And I remember just thanking him one more time and walking off just with the biggest smile on my face, just thinking, yes, this is me. And that was it. That was the first session. John.
So this is you fishing. Did you choose to fish the back lake?
So yeah, got my
Two, isn't
ticket.
it?
Got my
Yeah,
ticket. Farmer left me. Told me the basic rules, which were don't drive down the track fast, and you know you can't. There weren't really many, but whatever the rules were, they were sensible. You know, it was no bait boats, and it was all very, very sensible. And John stayed with me, I think. Yeah, I think he left, and John and I went for a walk just to spend a bit of time with John, but it was quite short-lived. I think the rain came in. John had places to go, and he stayed with me for like 20 minutes, something like that. We went and sat and looked at the back lake on a high bank, and then John left. I walked back to the car with him, but I had my gear with me. I was like, well, I'm going to go. I'm going to stay.
Just before you get into it, just to paint a picture of the place, because I know...
Yeah, you paint a picture.
No, I was going to say, you could describe to everyone the entire complex, what the whole thing looks like. So I know we just touched on it when we visited with John, but now we've got the ticket. Tell us about the lake.
So it's on a massive farm. And yeah, you kind of... I've said this before numerous times. One of the great things about a fishery for me is the approach, you know, because when you're driving there at 3-4 in the morning or going to bait up at night, I love the approach to a venue. And in an ideal world, it would be like these high verges with ferns sort of falling into the road, a lot of this, and you go through bits of wood, and at certain times the sunlight catches through the tree, and it's all very fairies and Cornwall, but you can find that in other parts of the country, and this was very much like that, you know, lots of sweeping roads, single track lanes, and you kind of pull off, cross a couple of cattle grids, which I also like that as you go across the cattle grid.
You just know you're going off the beaten track.
Yeah, do you know, you're off grid now, and then you're off grid, and then you're onto like a drive, and the drive's like gravel, and you go down it slow, and you hear the odd bit clinking off the motor, then you park, and then you have to walk back across the cattle grids, which might sound really, but it all made it what it was, you know. And then you hit the first lake, which is directly in front of a very large property. And that lake's 3 acres. No, bigger. Definitely bigger. Definitely bigger. It's broken up into 2 parts that are probably 3 acres each.
Bigger.
Okay. It's a decent sized bit of water, a very interesting bit of water in terms of the topography. You've got huge areas of shallow silt. You've got much, much deeper, big drop-offs into the abyss almost. It's plateaus and bars. It's a gravel pit.
But it's a lot plainer than that back lake, isn't it? No trees, especially that front.
It's very open.
Yeah, it's that front lake, especially the front part of the front lake, as Alan says, it's split into 2. The front part's just quite barren, really. There's no trees on it. It's very open. You know, it's in the countryside, and like, you know, on the horizon it goes up, and you can see you're in this valley from the horizon, but it is... That front lake's very open, really. Like, not a lot to look at, to be honest.
Not really. It's a very nice lake.
Yeah.
But it's not got a touch on the back lake, is it? They're like 2... It's almost like they shouldn't be next to each other. They're like 2 different ecosystems.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
The front one feels a bit more heathy, bit more...
Yeah,
more
right.
Heathy. Like, you can imagine the yellow gorse everywhere, and... the back lake is like just shrouded and
stock-wise. That front lake known about? Or
yeah, it's got a good stock of fish. So much so that to get to the back lake, you have to walk past usually 50% of the stock. You know, they're all up in this shallow sort of no fishing area. It's no fishing because it's behind so many islands and that you couldn't fish it anyway. It's very, very shallow. And yeah, you have to walk past the stock. And I remember like Kev making a bet with me and Dan. They're like, you won't be able to do it. You won't be able to do it. And I made a vow, like a pact that I would. And I fucking stuck to it. I did.
Honestly.
I did, man. Yeah, imagine walking past.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Loads of 20 pound, loads of good uns, mega old ones. And every time I push the barrow past it, or when I go to bait up, I walk past it and just give them a little nod, carry on going. I never fished for them. Which I'm quite proud of, to be fair.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
You could have easily got so distracted.
There was a few white ones in there as well. Mate, I can't believe he didn't.
Some ornamental.
The interesting thing is, because as we were saying, the 2 lakes are very different. They were attached.
Yeah.
They were attached.
They were attached.
Yeah.
So in one end of the front lake, the river flows in, and then you're into the lake, and it's probably in all 10 acres.
Right.
All in, maybe a bit bigger, but it is like channels around the back and 2 big bowls. And then out the other side, it flows through a very shallow stream, inches really, or it get up to, you know, maybe 12 inches deep.
Yeah.
and then with some stepping stones across it, and then you flow into the back lake, and then on the other side of the back lake, it flows out again.
Wow.
So technically they're attached. So that's why it is quite weird. Like you say, it's quite moory, quite heathy, like the front lake, and then the back lake's just completely...
Yeah, the flow goes through. That's mental.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the back lake, you said
So
completely
the back lake was the venue of choice. Yeah, because unlike the front lake had swims, don't get me wrong, they were very old swims, basically a railway sleeper that had subsided into the ground, but they were worn swims. You could see where years and years of bivvies had been set up there, but they weren't wood chipped or anything like that with swim names or numbers, but they had designated swims.
Yeah.
The back lake, nothing. Zero swims.
Nothing.
They had a little bit of flat or grass.
There was one. Remember, you know where we spent most of our time?
Yeah, the bottom end. Yeah.
Opposite that, we never fished it.
Steps going down.
There was an old, broken, rotted away sleeper in the water, and that's the only sign there was of a swim.
Yeah, we never actually fished that peg once.
No.
Like it was a point, probably at a point would have been the best peg on the lake because it sort of gave you access to fish all of the lake. But yeah, never fished it. And yeah, this back lake, it's made up of two lakes. There's a small lake with a very, very big, significant bar that kind of separated that and the main body of water itself. The small lake was like half an acre, 3/4 of an acre.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then the back lake was 5.
4 or 5, yeah.
4 or 5.
Okay.
So you got about 5-6 acres of water altogether. So yeah, a little small one, completely covered in trees. Good depths, really good depths, covered in pads and cabbages, fallen trees in the water, shallower areas, little tiny bays within that as well. Really, really interesting. Lots of little bays, actually, of various different shapes. Then this huge, big gravel bar that literally went up. It flattened off for 5 to 10 metres and then dropped back down into the abyss again and then opened right out into the main body of water. As Dan said at the sort of start of the podcast, right time of the year, as far as the eye can see, just lily pads, the odd passage through them, the odd clearing, where the water's very, very deep. Obviously, no pads growing at all, but the bulk of it was pads.
Crystal clear.
Crystal clear. A lot of it inaccessible, even for me, definitely inaccessible. There were certain bits of bank where you just couldn't get access to the water, nor could you fish them because you're talking about ancient trees falling in, multiple times in a row that you just couldn't fish them. Yeah. And then, there was where the river comes in or the stream comes in. That was sort of another channel up there, very, very silty. No islands.
Just so mature, so old, mature, like just forgotten in this farmer's field. Like,
so yeah, the box ticking was no swims, no anglers. Not my choice. I hadn't begged. I need it exclusive for a year. I was just a paying syndicate member like everyone else. The difference was not everyone. The vast majority of the syndicate had chose to fish the front lake, which I get, close to where you could park your vehicle, very good stock of fish. Fish all had names. There was this known 30, this known 30, this known 30. Swims were convenient to fish. It ticked a lot of boxes for a lot of anglers against the back lake where there was no swims. No one knew what the stock was.
hell of a walk.
Hell of a walk.
What are we talking from the car park?
Not a hell of a walk, but you've got to walk. Imagine, Hassan, being that angler, you've got to walk past all these carp.
Yeah, I mean, that
in itself is a hard thing to do,
I've gone the front leg straight
Mate,
away.
I think still, with a loaded barra, it's quite a trek.
Yeah, it is quite a trek.
Quite a trek.
And to get to the bank that I wouldn't say turned out to be the best bank, but to get to 50% of the lake, you had to go through the river with the barrow.
That was the big.
Right.
Yeah,
I
so
think
that's
that was the
like
thing
A
which-
river crossing,
that's
literally.
either we'd have wellies at the right time of the year, but in the heat of summer, do you know what I mean? You got shorts on, take your shoes off, bare feet across the river.
And I'm not being funny. Like, if you haven't got a power barrow, and that
Yeah,
river was
doing
up a
it.
bit. Not that you're not doing it. Everyday angler's not doing it.
No,
And the chances are that one of those 10, 12 other members is, dedicated enough to go and push his way through the stream to get to like some of the best spots on that other lake, or 50% of that other lake. No, I'll fish the lake with the, 30-pound scalies in that. I know we're there. That's a mystery. Why would I do that? Seen the odd cricket-back common in there.
Yeah, that's a lot of investment.
Yeah.
Investment that
So
might
that's
not
why
pay
they
off.
didn't do it, especially for people who didn't, they weren't, like I say, these are just not pleasure anglers, but
Yeah.
you haven't got your diehards on there.
Yeah.
Just some lads who know the owner.
Your first experience on there, you said you had your kit when you
Yeah,
left
so I
John.
went back down just with basic kit, sawn off, some bread, an Anakin mat and a net. And yeah, the storm rolled in. It got really moody quickly, like really grey, really moody. But because of the size of the trees, even with, big downpours, I could tuck myself under a tree. Yeah, and I was just, I was buzzing, Hassan, man.
Was this what we count as the first session 9th of June?
When I rung you and I'd caught one that time. I was so happy, man. It was hard to, I had no sunlight and I had rain smashing down on the water surface plus a ripple, so it was really hard to find them for the first sort of hour or so. And I remember sort of doing an entire lap, which that was my first lap, because even when we went, I don't think we did a lap. I think we walked, looked at it and walked back again. We did go round. Okay. So I'd done a lap, not really seen anything, hid from the rain for a little while, and then sort of focused my attention on this one particular bank, just going up and down, and couldn't find anything. I think I was probably close to sort of writing it off and coming back at another time. And I remember walking back down, the wind had backed off, the rain had backed off, and found a group of fish. And that was really like my first sighting, because when we'd looked at them in 2019 and they were just smashing the pads up spawning, you couldn't actually see what was in there. I had no idea what was in there. John had no idea what was in there. Speaking with the farmer when I got the ticket, he had no idea what was in there. And to be honest, as the sort of sessions and the months wore on, even speaking with the lads, all of which were proper sound that fished the front lake, no one had an idea what was in there. They all sort of speculated a little bit and they thought or they knew what might, but no one had any sort of concrete. So yeah, I was there, felt like I was the first person to ever find these carp, and I was like starting to recognise them more and like watch their behaviour and which bits they like to swim and all that good stuff in carp fishing, just me and the carp. And I remember at one point, this went on for like a couple of hours. I couldn't get them to take bread. I was using the wind. I was drifting this bread over the reds. They just weren't interested. A couple of them would feed, and those couple, they didn't just take a bit. They would literally go round, take
all of it,
5, 6, 8, 10 bits, and then stop feeding again. And they're obviously full up in that. But that obviously maybe they'd come from elsewhere. Maybe they'd got in there in a flood. I don't know. But the bulk of the fish in front of me had zero interest in any of the white stuff over their heads. But yeah, I remember at one point sort of being behind a tree, but I remember becoming more and more brazen and more confident and coming more out in front of the tree to the point I'm almost just there in front of them. And I absolutely remember them coming in, swimming right up to me, like looking at me, like pausing like for 30 seconds, 20 seconds, looking at me, and then going off again and going round. And it was like just me and them. It was wicked. I absolutely loved it.
So there was no great big spook off?
Nah, nothing. Don't get me wrong. To start with, I was being the ultra cool, on my hands and knees crawling in. But as you just want to look that little bit more. You want to get that little bit higher to get a little bit of a better view of them. And I became more confident. Maybe they'd become more confident. There wasn't loads of casting or leads going in the water. It was just a bit of bread drifting over their heads. And yeah, I can absolutely remember them. I remember thinking, I'm here. I'm here. And the odd one had literally come and look at me. I remember like bits of bread started to disperse off the stuff on the surface, and the odd bit would fall down, and that was like a switch, a complete like hitting a switch. The more bits would fall down, like one would just tip up and just start feeding on the odd bit, and then another one, and then I was like, right, okay, squeezing bits, throwing it in, and before I knew it, I had a few of them down. Now, actually, it weren't that they didn't like bread; they absolutely fucking loved it. They just didn't like it on the surface of the water at all. And then I can't remember how I caught one. I can't remember, Dan, whether I caught it off the surface or I actually had to squeeze a bread bomb and let it sort of flutter down.
Looking back at some of the footage, I think, so I wasn't there at this point. I was just on his own.
on his own, yeah.
I was actually filming Alfie at Horseshoe. I think you squeezed it and floated it down.
Sunk it down. It was a totally different reaction, man. Like once it was a bit grubbed down on the bottom, they were like mad happy feeding. And yeah, I ended up hooking one. Good battle, ended up in the water because of the canopy over my head, got it in the net. At the time, I remember seeing some really long fish. Really hard to put a figure because I'm quite low to the water how big they were. But I remember this one I caught thinking to myself, this was not one of the big ones. This was sort of like a middle of the road. There was about 25 fish in front of me, 20 to 25 fish in front of me. And I remember thinking...
What, all at once? Or
yeah, all at once. Because I come in and go, a group of 7, and then I'd see 15 at once. And I put it in my head that I felt like there was about 20 to 25 fish. And you ended up getting one, 28 pounds.
And that was middle of the road?
I thought it was middle of the road. I was like, this is just like a mid-sized one, which really like lifted my spirits to think, what is in here?
Yeah.
Like, what, especially as there was a couple that looked really long. And you sometimes think with those fish, if they've got the width and got the depth, then they're giants. Yeah, they're massive. Anyway, I've rung Dan like fucking in bits. Stop. I was
so funny,
man. I
'cause
was so
like I say,
happy,
I
man.
I was filming Alfie and I knew he was there without me. And he was just going to buy the ticket and have a walk round. I knew he might do some fishing.
I had the cameras with me and I filmed it myself.
So you had
cameras?
Yeah. But I knew I wasn't there at this point, and so he's rang me. And one of my favourite things about this place was, honestly, as soon as you go through the gate, it was like a force field, like a phone, no signal.
Yeah, no signal, mate.
Literally,
no
as soon as you
signal.
drive in, boom, nothing. And until we left, and it became a thing. Me and Al I joined him on almost every single session. Well, from the first time I came, he never went on his own. But every time we drove in, nothing.
Gone.
Yeah.
And then every time you drive out, ding, da, ding, 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 da, ding, that life catches up with you. But you might do 2 nights with or you might get up on a high bank and just get enough
This place
signal.
is heaven, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, he's good. Man.
So he's rang me and he's in bits. And he's going,
Yeah,
big. Get in the fucking net. And I'm going, you what? You've got one. You've got one. He's 27. And we're trying to have this conversation. And he tried to FaceTime me, and he's just like, all these like frozen images, mate. But I could just tell he was just so excited. He just needed someone to shout at, like, I did it, I caught one. It was wicked. It was wicked. But I think you managed to. Did you leave after that?
Yeah,
I think he rang me on the way home.
It's really cool carp, man. It's like proper chestnut brown. It had a massive like slice out of its tail, really distinct. A little bit of it didn't have a mega overslung mouth. It had a decent mouth, but yeah, it definitely had this really distinct slice out of its tail.
Like you say, there was no mouth damage. It just had like a lockjaw.
Yeah. And done the pictures, done some filming, put it back. Obviously they'd all spooked, like they'd been left, God knows how many months, years, whatever, those fish had been in peace, and I'd just come in there and run into the lake, and anyway, they'd gone. And I remember going back to the motor, grabbing a bag of flake and a bag of boilies, walking back down with a lead, having a little field around, a couple of clear areas, I could see it was clear, and that was the first time I gave them some free food. And then I think I was back like a day later.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I think what had happened wasn't
your second session when you went to deliver a rock?
Yeah, that's right. I had a right mad thing.
That would have been this 15th, because then you went to the river with Dave, didn't you? Was that your second session?
You had to deliver a rock.
This is like completely irrelevant, but I might as well tell it. Like I basically, that night, I could have stayed and done the night. This is so weird. I could have done the night there. You're absolutely right, Dan. It was the start of the river season. This is when it was. But Kev had asked me a big favour. He's like, Al, do me a massive favour. Deliver a rock for me.
A rock?
No problems, Kev. Anything for you, mate. Yeah, the thing is, the rock's a bit heavy. Right, okay, where is the rock? It's in my garden. Come up and get it. So I've gone up there. I could literally just about lift this rock. It's massive. The rock had come from France, and Rachel and Kev were fishing together. And it was like early one morning, the sun was rising on this lake, and Rachel and Kev are chatting, they're having a brew or whatever, and the sun was glinting off this rock, and it had some like some kind of quartz in it or something, and it was, and Rachel's like, I love that rock. Kev's like, typical Kev, do anything for her. Well, you can have it then. Like, I'll get it back to England for you. Anyway, the rock come back to England, but it never actually managed to get to Rachel's house, and it stayed in Kev's garden ever since. And I think Rachel had a very special birthday. I shouldn't say the age, like 21. It was a bit more than that. But she had a special birthday coming up, and Kev said, I'll take that rock up to her for me, Al. So I got lumbered with this massive rock. And then
you got to do stick a bow on it and drop it on the doorstep.
Exactly that. Exactly that. So it was a surprise. So I couldn't just go to the door and knock to drop the rock off. I knew that she'd be up till like 11, 12 o'clock at night, so I couldn't go to the house till after midnight. So I parked in a lay-by with this massive rock, and then she lives in a really nice house in a really nice area. Clearly, the whole street have got surveillance cameras and that. And I crept into that street at like 1:30 in the morning, like with the van. Drove the van in, like a black van, got to her house, got out, like looked around, and then proceeded to like, I can't do the demonstration, but it was like milli steps like this because the rock was so heavy down her drive with this massive, very carefully put it on her doorstep, and
the phantom rock dropper
again.
mate.
And then because the farmer had said to me like, you can't drive in there at 3 in the morning because it's too noisy, I then had to go and sit in another lay-by with butterflies in my tummy because all I wanted to be was back at the venue.
Rock dropping to back
Drop the rock,
venue.
Drop the rock, drove all the way back to the lake, waited until 5, whenever, a reasonable time basically to be going down this drive, and drove back down it again. And every time I went there, I had that same feeling of like, and it was very different morning. We had a sunrise. It was a lot stiller. There was no rain, and it was June the 15th.
Must have been,
June the 15th. Can't remember what happened. Caught 1, caught 2, caught 3.
You caught.
They were on the plateau. No, that plateau I referenced. There was
bar,
fish passing between. There was fish passing between the bar. There was fish in the little pond. There was fish and it was just there was fish everywhere.
At this point on that lake, you've got there. You know you've potentially got a lot of sort of space to yourself. Are you thinking you're going to go around in maybe what a lot of people have seen in typical Blair style and sort of observe carp and fish for them where you see them, or are you going to think, well, hold on a minute, I've got a bit of time potentially on here with it to myself, I'm going to bait an area and get things going? What's going through your thought process? Because I know it's relatively new in terms of on the venue.
The things that are going through my head are they're not getting any angler's bait.
Yeah,
they're going to be feeding on naturals. I need to change that, and that's going to involve application of bait. That was the first thing in my mind. I didn't want to, because I knew it was a campaign. I knew I had time on there. It wasn't like I'd run in with a ball of maggots, quickly nick one. Job done, nice film. I had time to get something going, and the most important thing was bait, introduction of bait, because I knew there wasn't a lot of angling pressure. I wasn't fearful of, where I put it. I was using the first few sessions to let the carp tell me where they were spending their time. That was those two elements. Where were their happy places? And once I knew that, giving them the food and getting them on to bait.
Food-wise, bait-wise, what were you putting in?
Boilie.
Just boiling?
Yeah, because we knew there was lots of tension there. We knew there was bream in there. So, it started off with flake. I don't even think I used any particle. I might have if I had a bit of pellet left over, but I was primarily starting with flake. I wanted the areas cleared down. We're talking about a really old lake here with lots of twigs and sticks and branches. Yes, there were swims where I did the work myself with handheld rakes or rakes on poles, castable rakes. But the bulk of that clearing would be done with a flake because of the rod and everything else in there. They would work the spot down to make it really fishable.
And what you found in terms of those first couple of sessions or few sessions, was there distinct areas? That bar's a massive feature between the two.
Yeah, the bar, like the small pool up until spawning was really good.
Yeah.
And then the moment those fish spawned, you never saw them back in there. You could completely draw a line under it. Zero point
Write
fishing
it
it.
off.
And I wasted many a rod hour or many a walk round in that small, because it looked so good, man. It just looked so good.
I never saw him in there.
Yeah.
Because when I came,
Yeah,
I
when
think
did you join?
So on that, this was the last session before I came, I think, and you had success in that pool, and
They were all in there.
Yeah.
Like
Were
I'd lost 2 good uns in there, both to hook pools.
On the bar? Or
One
just
on
in
one
the-
on bread. One on bread
okay.
on the surface, which again I mentioned there was 1 or 2 fish that would go round, and
Yeah.
this was that exact moment. I was down at the narrow end of it, and there's a group of fish down there. I'm feeding bread, and it's beautiful, mate. It was like river carp fishing because the flow was exiting. Yeah. The bread was obviously like just drifting like a river. There was geese and swans and coots picking it up at the back end, but there was these carp up in the lake bit of it itself, and I was like, there's an opportunity here. Just wasting time because they were so uninterested, Hassan. And then from nowhere, this fish has appeared like on the back margin. I watched it come out and sort of head towards me, and it's got like 50 bits of bread to eat if it wants, and it just fucking went through in its path, mate. Anything in its path, it was a given, you know. And it was a really nice fish. It was definitely a scaly one, not a fully, but it had scales on it, black. And I remember thinking, you know, that you're going to get a bite, put it in the bread, and hooked it, and it's just gone like at a rate of knots, mate, up the margin, ploughed through countless pads, and you know, never did anything with it, never stopped it, never controlled it, just piled it on £3 sawn off, £20 bullet mono,
£20 bullet mono,
and it's just gone.
Big old hook as well, I bet.
Yeah, size 4, mate. Just one of them. Didn't happen. I could have maybe let the pressure off, and I was on my own, so it wasn't a one for swimming through pads and untangling it. It was a hold on.
Yeah, hit and
one
hold.
or two things are going to happen, and the hook pull. So I lost that one, and then I had another mega opportunity in there of another really good common. I had some big tench scraper doubles feeding on a really shallow gravel spot, and they were coming up and they were picking up bits of corn, and there was a few carp in there as well, and then this much bigger common come up from, I never even see it, so I'm laying really, really low to the ground watching these fish in my head going, Dan will fucking kill me if I catch a big tench. It's a carp film, but all I'm thinking is these PB breaking tench here.
Yeah, scraper
But I
doubles.
was like, no, don't do it, Alan, you're filming, you know, you need to get carp. Anyway, and then from nowhere, mate, this fucking common's come up this slope, and I just see its head come over, and then it's dropped down onto this small area, and it's come in. I remember casting a couple of times at it, not getting my cast very well, just 2 bits of corn, free-lined, and it's kind of gone round. I was like, I've blown it, and he dropped back off again. And then minutes later, he's come back up again, done exactly the same thing, and this time the cast went perfectly. I've hooked him, big un, and he's gone back over the edge, bit of a ruck, and I lost that one as well. Hook pull, much smaller hook. But yeah, back to that. That was all within that first couple of 2 or 3 sessions, all on that small pool before Dan.
But also,
Dan
before I
turned
arrived,
up.
you had Ghosty.
Yeah, had a big ghosty, like £29.
Bread again, or off the...
No, that was off the bottom. I think just on a single 15mm cultured over a bit of flake.
You had a really cool mirror
Yeah,
with the 4 like square
Yeah.
scales.
yeah. That one, I think that was off the top of the bar. It's the only fish I caught off the bar.
Right.
And that particular day, it was majestic, mate. The bar was so shallow that like I'd fed flake and a bit of pellet or whatever on the bar, and their lobes of their tails were all out of the water, like literally dancing. So I caught that sort of sight fishing. It was just great.
And a little comment as well.
Yeah, those first few sessions down there, the first night I did, I basically that morning I literally went there just to put a bit more bait in and just to see it one more time. I pulled off there around lunchtime, and then went and did a night on the river for the opening of the season, and literally supposed to do 2 nights on the river and just canned it with
so
Dave.
those fish
I was
would
like,
have come in
Dave,
there,
man,
so-
like as much as I've had the best time, I've got places to
this
be,
is
mate.
this is a bit of me.
and he totally got that. So I only did the one night on the opening of the season and went straight back there.
So
That was my first night there. I was on my own for that.
yeah, and I think that's when you had that Ghosty and that.
Yeah.
So in those first couple of sessions, Howard had a few, and it was kind of at this point, it's like, right, it's a goer. You know, we've got we've got a venue here where we can, you know, really run with. And then I said, I'm going to join you on every session. Now I'm going to document Alan Blair's entire campaign, and we kind of had a concept, and we called the film Borrowed Time, which is actually a bit annoying because I know Baitworks did a film called Borrowed Time about the otters. Yeah. So it's just like, no, that was my name, but we'd already referenced it through our whole film.
Yeah.
Borrowed Time. So sorry, we're nicking the name. But
And it had different reasons. It wasn't, you know, we come on to it, but riddled with otters. That had one reasoning, but also my time is really limited.
Oh, mate, definitely.
So it worked there.
We knew really that, again, going back to the places like this are so few and far between, but then they don't last long. When you film, when you find them, you can't hang about on places like this. This is magical. And like we said, no otter fence. It's in the middle of nowhere, very limited stock, no one fishing it. You know, it could be one winter, gone.
Yeah, totally.
Gone.
It's on a knife edge, isn't it?
Yeah. Or a flood comes in, gone.
Yeah.
In carp fishing, there's so many ways just to lose. You know, I see it so many times, and I've heard so many of my mates like, just don't wait on anything. If you think you got something good at your fingertips, don't wait on it, because you're always on borrowed time. You know, whether it is you've only got a year until this pandemic thing's over, and suddenly we're going back to Europe again, and that sort of thing.
There was that element as well.
You know, it was everything about it. We were just like, we have to do it, and we have to do this now. We have to do it now, because if we don't, opportunity is just going to disappear. You know, right now, because we finished a year ago, it could be done. I've never heard anything about it since. It could be gone. They could all be gone. They all could all be gone. Like, you just don't know, and so that's why. Yeah, we decided to call the film Borrowed Time, and really like focusing on that element of it.
As a cameraman, did you feel like a bit of responsibility around sort of preserving the integrity of the fact that it was such a mega untouched place, and not because you see videos of places that maybe have been untouched or unpublicised, it then comes to light to people, and they can become a bit more of a busier circus and turn into a different thing. Did you feel a bit of responsibility around all that when you were going to film him?
Yeah, so I never wanted to use a drone.
Yeah.
I never wanted to put a drone up.
We banned drones, didn't we?
Yeah. I actually ended up taking one for the very last session, and that was it. More than anything, to get some aerial shots. We've got a cool concept of how we want to show the lake. You know, those big establishing aerial shots. Got a cool concept on how we want to show that. The ball's rolling with that at the moment. But yeah, there definitely was. And also the fact that, so I didn't really want to show where it was. I didn't want to show too much of the surrounding area or anything like that. I wanted to kind of preserve it. Even in this podcast, I've even said, we've had to go, cut, because we can't say where it is.
You might notice some bleeps at the start of this podcast. That'd be me.
Just because, not because we're trying to be all secret squirrel, but like, I just want to, you know, if the owner turns around and says, actually, I want the publicity, fine, sweet, but it's not that sort of place, you know. His house is on the lake. I don't want people just turning up and knocking on the door. And, you know, so there was that element. And then in terms of like trying to perceive it in that absolute light that we both saw it in, I did think about trying to like shoot in perhaps a bit of a different way.
Fair.
Yeah,
I get that. It's a bit of responsibility in terms of that. I definitely sort of see that. I wouldn't want to be the one trying to do it and make sure it's not, I know that tree. But I suppose unless you're there, you're not going to know that tree.
I wasn't too worried about, you know, that sort of thing. You know, there's the big wides, and no one's going to know it.
No,
Trust me.
Yeah.
They will.
Oh, well,
The locals.
Yeah.
Which they already know it. Because they probably already
know.
fished it over the years. As the years have gone on, and I've dropped the odd thing on an Insta story or whatever, people have got in touch. Like people who I've known for a long time. Oh, yeah, I had a ticket on there once.
Yeah.
But at the time, we knew nothing or knew no one. But yeah, of course people have fished it and people recognise it, 100%.
I think more the fact that there's not going to be any big drone shots where there's a railway going by.
Yeah.
People go, okay, I know what it's like on Google Maps, mate. I'll find anything. Do you know what I mean? So, but I was careful of that, But I was also confident in the fact that I don't have to think too much about my filming in case someone might see a building over there. Or like I was confident that we're so in the sticks.
You said you did every session filming with him after that. In terms of your work is mad, as everybody's work is busy, but your time for your own fishing, I know it was during the sort of pandemic period. How did that sort of pan out with regards to regularity getting down?
It was the first time in everything I've done for the last 5 to 10 years has just been work related, zero personal fishing. This was the first time where I was starting to it was still filming and fishing, but I was pushing the sessions a little bit more. Like, no, let's do an extra night, or let's go a day early, or let's stay a little bit longer, and I was doing it for me. That it became that. It became, instead of going on a 5-day shoot or a 7-day shoot or a 10-day shoot or whatever, it was like, I want to go there and I want to stay there longer, and I'm going to make the effort to travel 6-hour round trip to bait up. Twice a week potentially. Yeah. I want to be there as much as possible. I want to be there as much as I possibly can be. And that was different. I hadn't had that for a long time, Hassan, with the desire to want to be back at the water, badly want to be back there or not leave there.
And I think because I knew there was this element to it, this is Alan's first syndicate. I know he mentioned in an interview, whether it's used or not, he said that he even got that in the office when Tom's coming back after a weekend and he's building on his campaign, and then Seb's talking about what he's been doing, and I might be talking, I've just done an overnighter last night and they're in this area. They're late
I don't get it. I haven't had that for 10 years.
He was saying he almost he missed it. He wanted something to build on. In terms of shooting as well, it's shot in such a way where I tried as much as I can not to interfere with Al. A lot of what we do is very run and gun, documentary style, in your face, very high octane, because that's what Alan's like. Yeah. Tell me what you're doing. Show us this, show us that solid bag again. And it's all and it slows him down. This one I wanted to really
let him go.
Yeah. We planned to shoot 3 or 4 big interviews, which would cover that season, like spring, summer, autumn, winter. But in terms of the actual sessions, because I knew I'd be going to do so many, I tried as much as I can just to let him go. I didn't need as much footage. I didn't need what was happening now, because it's a year-long film. If we did that, it'd be 8 hours long.
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, I tried to give him a sense of, I'm fishing, personal fishing.
Yeah.
We're chilling. And
it became very chilled as well.
Yeah.
The more I got to learn about the venue and the way to catch them and stuff, it was a dreadful stalking venue. Dreadful.
Why is that?
I don't know, mate. Probably because of how low stocked it was.
Right.
There was not very many fish in there. They did not like floaters or bread, which has been my number one sort of go-to approach. Yes, you could prime spots in the edge, but the bird life, you never see nothing like it. So unless you were going to sit on top of a spot and keep them away, you couldn't do that classic bait half a dozen spots, go and check them. Oh, look, the carp are on this one. I'll fish for them now, because the birds you turn your back, mate, the birds had cleared you out. It was relentless. It was a terrible stalking venue, terrible, which probably suits, our market or the people watching this a lot better in terms of a film, because it was much more
in the pond. Yeah,
get your rods in position, bait, wait, stay 2 nights, hopefully they'll tip up on me, much more that kind of angling, which was good for Dan and I. We had a lot of time to sit and chat.
It's a lot more static than
a lot more static. That's not how I wanted to fish it. I remember going there thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna.
You say that we had like a
don't get me wrong, we did a few laps.
Yeah.
But it took me 5 to 10. No, it took me 10 sessions to realise that this is a waste of time, didn't it? Yeah. But at the start, because
had a little
all I wanted to do was go round and round and round and round and round, and I learnt the hard way that applying bait, even in 8 foot, 10 foot of water, you were getting dived on, and they were clearing you out.
But we had a little running joke. By the end, we just looked at each other and went,
lap.
God knows how many times I've been around.
Quite
often, either we get the rods out, or the rods would have been out for the night and it's past out bite time. Rods have come in, had a bite to eat, and we look at each other going, lap.
Yeah.
And we just do a lap, don't find nothing. When you said a minute ago that you had like 20 odd fish, that baffled me because we never saw that again.
Yeah, and this is the point, and I was going to pick it back up. At that very first session, there's 20, 25, however, it could have been 50. There's loads of carp there. But in my head, this is really important for people to realise, in my head, that's just it. Because over there's another 25. There's probably 30 in that corner, 16 down. In my head, there's 100 fish, 150 fish. I've just found a group of them. What it actually transpired to be was that was the stock. That was all of them. And more often than not, you would find them all together, really find them all together. And there was very few carp in there.
Yeah. So we do his lap and we'd see nothing. We get back and we go, okay, right, have a drink, cup of tea, tie some rigs, get ready to, I don't know, in case, when we do find them. And then we just look at, we've been back in the swim an hour now and we just look at each other and go, lap. And we go the opposite way round. But yeah, we walked it a lot. But as Al said, the reason the bird life was so bad is because the bird life was really spooky. Actually, there's a lot of geese on there,
geese, swans,
about 1,000 ducks.
Yeah,
because it was just he used it for shooting at times as well. So he put down a load of ducks.
Put down ducks then.
Yeah. So there was honestly,
that's a nightmare.
We're jumping all over the place, but I remember one time going there. Like, I think this was towards the end of the year and we were kind of wrapping the film up and we needed a few more shots and that. He'd put the birds down a couple of weeks before we got there. We got there, all the pads are gone.
Yeah.
Gone. They'd eaten a lot, mate. They'd gone. The water clarity had gone. It was chocolate brown and it changed a lot, the lake, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, crazy.
There'd be other times you go there, like it was mad. You go there and there'd just be so many different wildflowers, like wildflower meadow and thistles and all these beautiful butterflies. He'd let the sheep into the field. You go back there, there'd be nothing. Nothing. All the cows or something would change
Yeah. Your baiting, you talked about bait, you talked about application, ultimately having to fish out in the pond. You said boilie. In terms of the quantities that you're putting in, what were you putting in a lot because of the nuisance fish? Were you put...
Yeah, at the start, I'd go up there, I'd put 5 kilo of flake in and 5 kilos of 20 millers.
What would you do? Where would you get them from?
I'd get them from the bunker. Like, I built a bunker. Basically, because the walk was sufficient, I decided I could store things like water and bait up there. So it was basic. We took some 230 water boxes, dug them into the ground in a very deep thicket woodland thing.
He said he did it, I filmed it.
Yeah, I did it. And we stored some water there and bulk boilies basically, set into the ground. There was a camo net over the top. It was all pegged down and you could basically just uncover it, open a water box, grab a couple of bags of bait.
Sticks and that on it. You'd never know it was there.
No, it was good.
The mere, mate. The mere.
Not the mere, but it is a walk, like I say. And with one particular day, I loaded the power barrel up, took it all over there, buried it, and then I could just basically top it up as and when I needed it, or go and grab another bag of bait. Maybe I'd had a few fish and I wanted to put a bit more bait in because I couldn't get back for 2 weeks or whatever it was.
And that was just one of those other. That was one of those other elements of this untouched. Going back to your childhood kind of thing.
Yeah, mate. I did it as a kid. Me and Tom did it. We'd have particular trees. It would be like the food tree. You could go there and guarantee you get a couple of cans of baked beans or a tin of ravioli, and then we'd have other trees with tackle stored in it and sacks, because back then you could.
Yeah.
You just could. Like these waters, you built your own swims.
You're not doing that up the manor, are you?
No.
I'm very
getting away with that.
Like,
linear.
But that was just like, we probably didn't need to do it, but it was handy. But it was just also because you could.
Yeah.
We felt like kids again, going into the forest and digging up the bait that we'd hid in there. Like,
You see another angler on there?
Yeah.
You did.
One.
You're laughing. You're smiling.
We saw the one. What on one session, one of the lads on the syndicate did a night on the back lake.
Did he?
Yep.
Yes.
He fished that the step swim we referenced. But other than that, I never saw another syndicate. And pretty much guaranteed every time I went there, there'd be someone fishing the front lake. At least one person.
Yeah.
So even though there's only sort of 12, 13 lads fishing it, every time I went, which wasn't every week, there was always people fishing the front lake. But yeah, one time one of the lads decided to come across and do a night on the back lake. And then almost every time we fished there as well, there was a guy fishing the back lake. And this was a real
not every time. Like I didn't see
50% of the time.
Not even.
I disagree, Dan. I saw him a lot.
I don't think I see him.
I saw him a lot.
I see him a couple of times, but
If he watches this, hello.
Hi.
Hello. And I hope you don't take this the wrong way. But yeah, it is what it is. Basically, I tried a couple of times to talk to him. No. Zero communication
They called him
back.
the teacher.
Yeah.
They called it. He's got.
No, we called him the teacher. They called him the teacher.
Members said, well, they said he's a teacher.
It's the first time in my life, Hassan.
What? Just nothing?
No, zero. It was the first time in my life I got to meet someone. This is my belief. Again, apologies, sir, but this is my perception of you. I believe this guy to be so passionate about his fishing. Like he loves it on a different level to me. He is proper obsessed that he doesn't even talk about it to anyone else. That's how much it's ingrained into his life. That's how I read it. I could be completely wrong and you could be a total arrogant prick. But I actually think he loves his angling that much. It's so precious to him and so special
that he doesn't speak of it.
No, he just keeps it to himself. Because he's a teacher, Hassan. Now, you stick this same gentleman in a class of 30, 15-year-olds, he's got to be like that to a degree. He's got to be a little bit animated. He's got to be a little bit, or he'd be the worst teacher in the world. So he has definitely got this.
He might not be a teacher, but
no, he is.
Someone said to the teacher, so, what does he teach?
He is definitely a teacher.
Yeah,
he's a teacher. Yeah, I think he teaches English.
But you tried to speak to him.
Yeah, I reckon
nothing.
English as well.
Literally, hello, nothing.
Nothing.
I don't believe.
No,
that.
you got to believe it, Hassan.
Mate, so
he grunt.
Oh, you got a grunt.
So I went to. Hi, mate. How you doing? Nothing.
Oh my god!
And then so Al gone. He can't have heard me. Gone a bit closer. Hello, mate. How you doing? All right. Caught much?
That was it. I tried it twice.
So he walked off. Like,
and then after that, I learned just give the man a wide berth. Just leave him in peace. And I left him in peace.
Because John did the same. Remember John when John come down that morning to fish with us for Tench?
Yeah.
And John had bumped into him, I think, the night before.
Yeah.
Or that morning, and gone, hello, sir. How are you? Nothing. Oh, this is my fish here.
He was proper. He had old delks. He had really old, like the very first Fox swingers.
Oh wow!
And I observed him, and he knew what he's doing.
Yeah,
he knew when he needed to fish his rods up.
Yeah.
He knew where the fish were. He'd fish out in the pond. He knew what he was doing.
If he ever did watch the film, or if he ever,
he definitely will watch film,
or if he ever watches this podcast, because obviously he's seen me. I've got big old cameras. I'm leaving.
He must have hated us being there. It was his bit of paradise,
Like I
and
say,
now we're there.
Okay, so basically, sir, I hope no one finds out where it is. We won't say, unless the owner wants us to, but we'll try as much as we can to keep that complete secret.
Hopefully, we can share a pint of cider with you one day.
Yeah, we'll do everything we can just to keep that secret. You know, I'd love to know what he knows in complete and utter secrecy. I'd never post it, never tell anyone else in the world. I have
on
no
a podcast.
I'd love to know, because that, even though I only filmed it, that place just consumed me just as much as it consumed Alan. Yeah. I wanted to know everything about that lake, what was in there, what were these rumours, what were we fishing for? Because, you know, we've got quite a good idea now of, you know, and you'll see in the film what was caught. I don't think that's it. And I'd love to know if he knows a little bit more, if he ever wanted to reach out and just be like, you boys missed out a few. It's never happening, but like, I'd never tell anyone. I'd just love to speak to him because he was a character which, he got my curiosity.
He was the guy, rain, sleet, snow, he was out. He was out, mate. And I watched him standing the head on winds and that, just like watching. He was a water watcher. He watched the water.
Yeah,
he'd know, mate.
Yeah. And he never night fished. He just picked, he would be the guy that he'd know when he needed to be there. He knew the lake so well.
But he's the only other person we saw on there. Really, yeah.
Your progression on the lake, you said there after the first few you'd seen 25 in an area, you're thinking there's more. Talk me through, after baiting and sort of your subsequent trips with obviously Dan in tow, camera-wise, how did things pan out?
It got a little bit boring, if I'm honest. The first few sessions were the best. They were my absolute highlights. After that, the angling got a little bit more boring.
Okay.
Because, like I said, we realised there was no point running around baiting spots and no point float fishing. In the whole time I was there, I had 3 or 4 chances off the top. Once with you, I missed it. Once where you come up and looked at it. That's how many times. In 100 rod hours, I don't know, 50 rod hours, holding a rod with bread on the end, however many it was, I had 3 or 4 chances on the top. So I wasted a phenomenal amount of time even trying. And then, the fishing just became a bit more, very much like the modern carp angler. Put some bait out, put a good rig out. Hopefully you got your location right, and they will feed.
My first night was fun. You had 4 my first trip.
4?
Yeah, 4 my first trip. And I think we went to sleep 10 o'clock at night, something like that. We always cooked good as well. We'll come on to the cooking. We always cooked good.
Yeah, we made a rule, like, no Air Maxes. I never wore a pair of Air Maxes. Dan wanted me to wear a flat cap and that, and chamois, and like a bit of tweed, and I was like, nah, come on. I didn't want to take the piss out of the venue, but I didn't ever wear Air Maxes.
No, I wanted
we
proper
kept
passion
it a bit
for angling, I did.
I did. Nah, it was never going to be that.
Scarecrow in one margin.
No.
Yeah, but so that first one, we've gone to sleep. You've had a bite at first light, landed it. I think you had to shout me because you forgot to set a net up. That was it. I think you shouted, woke me up because I was like just beyond this bank, so I never heard his alarm go off. So I just hear Al screaming, going, Dad, I've got up. Like, what? It's getting light. Like, went out there, and in the half light, he's got this fish. I was like, I forgot, I didn't set a net up. I was like, shit. Setting up, I netted it, mega one, wicked old carp, which I've actually seen pictures of since. As Al said, people messaged us from the front lake. So at some point, he's made his way into the back lake. Wicked old carp, real dark.
What are we talking? Common mirror?
Mirror, mid-20s. Bit of otter damage on the tail, real slopey head, and one of those little snub noses. Real nice one. We're doing photos of it in the field, and he's had another bite. Whee! He's off. He's running off for his rod. He's playing that one, and I'm sorting the fish out for him. And as I'm walking back to the lake with this fish in a retainer, I can hear this alarm going. I think the fish has just gone through another light. He's gone, it's the other one. So then
this didn't happen a lot, by the way. This is like,
this isn't like.
So then I've got the other rod, and I'm like holding this fish, and Al's, like, I don't know, 40 yards away, other side of this bush, just playing another one. I'm trying to hold it. My one's quite small, and his is tanking through pads, and I'm just holding it, and it's there ready for netting. I ain't got a net because
it's with Al.
It's with, well, Al's got one down there, but the one that we had for that fish had a fish in. Somehow I've just looked over. I've been doing a bit of tench fishing. There's a little pan net. I was like, yeah. We just slid this pan net under it. Just unfortunately, I had to just fold it in. I was like, help. It was only a little common, luckily. But yeah, then ran up, grabbed my camera, ran up, just got there in time for Al netting the other one. And just like that, carnage. It was just carnage, wasn't it?
That was rare.
Yeah.
Never really rare. You were looking a bite or two a session.
Yeah.
A bite or two a session, you've done all right. It was rare to blank. Don't think I did. Maybe once or twice.
Yeah, I think in the autumn we had.
But you were looking for a bite session.
Yeah.
So not prolifically.
No, not at all. And like I say, we quickly realised through recaptures, I had won 4 times, I think. I'd won 3 times. You started to recognise the same fish in the water time and time again. Don't get me wrong, I didn't catch them all. It was definitely the odd fish. I didn't.
Did you see anything that was the big one?
That one I referenced earlier that I lost, I'd like to have caught that. The one with some scales on it.
What were you saying that was?
For low to mid 30.
Right, okay.
That's what I put it at. But then I put the koi at bigger than it was when I caught it. There was times when I thought the koi was 40 pounds, up around 40 pounds. There was times when it was 35. But in the 3 times I caught it, it was...
Caught him 3 times.
Yeah,
there was always...
It was 31 and then 29 twice.
There was always an underlying mystery about the place. Ever since John said to us on that first session, in 2012 or whatever, someone caught 44 out of it.
Which we saw photos of eventually.
Eventually we see photos of it. But so we always knew, we're there like 7 years later. when John first showed us, there could be a chance it's not there. There could be a chance that there's something mental in this lake. And in my head, the fish which was in there, I've created him in my head.
I created him too.
Yeah.
I saw him. I lost him.
Yeah.
Did you?
I don't know.
Could have.
Like, let's put it like this, Hassan. Every carp I caught had otter damage. Every single one. Whether that was a bit out of the dorsal, a little bit out of the tail, or a bit out of... They all had, if you look back through every single photo, they pretty much had old otter damage. The otters were on there the whole time we were on there. You never didn't see them.
Like brazen daylight?
Brazen, all the time. We put trial cameras in there. We got hours and hours of footage of them biting geese's heads off and eating crayfish. And
Well, we haven't got footage.
Oh, there
of
were
that,
crates?
no, but
So there was craze?
full of crates.
Yeah. They were never
Full
a
of
problem,
crates.
the craze.
Not on bait, like when you're putting a load
No,
on?
they were all right because the otters kept the eco. It was just the perfect balance. It was the perfect balance. There weren't too many tench. There weren't too many nuisance fish. It was just perfect carp fishery.
You didn't have to slip down to sort of like, I
didn't have to
meshing
mesh.
baits,
No, none of that. You get crayed a bit, but you'd usually be fishing. Even if you reeled in and you'd been crayed, you'd still be fishing.
Yeah,
and it was
typically,
usually pop-up rigs. Like,
if you reeled
that what
in
you're fishing,
with
yeah?
three...
occasionally I'd have to, some of the very, very silty spots. Or if I was chucking at a show or a
Yeah.
set of fizzers, I'd fish a multi-rig or a
Fishing,
chod.
there was everything, wasn't there? We fished the whole year, so there was never like one tactic through the whole year.
No, I chopped and changed a little bit, but yeah, there was otters on there. And anyway, so all these carp have got otter damage.
Yeah.
Now, John told us, and some people I've spoke to since, the big un got ottered. Well, why didn't everything else get ottered? Why has everything else just got a little bit of otter damage that's years and years and years old? And we all know, there's park lakes, notorious park lakes. Don't fish there, you'll get murdered, your car will get broken into, and it's just to protect the fish stocks.
100%, yeah.
I can't help but think at some point in the past, the boys that are on there, one or two of them had caught the big common, a couple of their pals wanted to catch the big common. Let's just put it out there, it's been ottered.
Yeah.
It's too easy, so easy to do. If the fish is very difficult to catch anyway, and a season goes by and the rest of the members don't catch it or they don't see it, then very, very quickly it can become a myth,
Yeah.
Certainly when I was on there and I was speaking to the boys on the front lake, they all believed that it wasn't in there. And I've spoke to friends, not even like acquaintances, lads I know really well that have also been on there to fish for this particular fish, and they never saw it. And nor did I, apart from one time. Dan never saw it. And that's going round and round and round.
You did a lot of laps.
I think we did 13 sessions in total. Some were overnighters, some were two, three nights. I never saw.
No, nor did I, apart from once.
Where'd you see that?
I hooked him. I see this. There was some fish in a very deep hole under a tree, and the tree allowed you to get up, so you were literally above the fish. And it was a really sunny day, and I had some fish to my left ghosting over a gravel spot, and I had some fish under this tree. None of them were like mind blowing. They were 20-pound commons, 20 to 25-pound commons, and I had one camera with me. And I couldn't decide, or I was struggling to decide which fish I wanted to film.
This is before I'd arrived. This is right at the beginning.
Here, and it's a really nice spot, and it's a really nice angle, and they're coming across this gravel, and it just looks great. These big black shapes coming across this gravel, and I've got a bit of food there, and occasionally they'll feed. So I'm filming them. But then under the tree, which is really, really deep, I've been like squeezing bread. So you've got this black silty bottom, and then you've got these bits of white flake on top of it. And I've got these other 20, 25-pound commons, different group. They're coming in, they're dropping down and feeding. And I wanted to capture it both, and I couldn't. So I was flitting the camera between the two.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is half an hour, 45 minutes, backwards and forwards. I've got a rod with me. But I'm more interested in the filming, really, than catching another 20-pound common. Dan's kind of said to me at this point, slow down with the catching, wait till I get there, and I'll film it properly kind of thing. So I wasn't in a mad rush to catch another 20-pound common. I've gone back up this tree again, the 5th time or whatever, and I've looked down, and all the bread's gone, and there's 3 20, 25-pound commons, and this big carp, mate. Big carp. And to this day, I don't know in my head whether it was a common or a mirror. I honestly don't know. all I remember just looking at it, just like, you're massive, absolutely massive. And because of the black silt on the bottom and how black it was, it all just kind of blurred into one, but I could make out his shape and its frame. And I was up there. Because all the bread's now gone off the bottom, the 3 commons that were there, they've kind of vacated back out underneath the canopy into the lake, and all that's left is him. And I managed to get back down, get a rod, get a bit of bread on, and I made 3 casts. The first 2 casts, I didn't get it quite right. With a big bit of flake, the way it falls through the water, it's not like a boilie dropping straight down. It kind of goes where it wants, and as it catches another bit of bread, it can actually go off this way quite a lot and then fall again and fall again and fall again. So the first 2 casts, I never got it in the path. It was basically just swimming around, looking for another bit of bread, Hassan. Like, it's all gone. Where's it gone? Why is there none left here? But my first 2 casts didn't work out. My third cast, I got it right, and it's tipped up, dropped down, and I think it was just before it actually hit the bottom, it's engulfed it. And yeah, I've set the irk, and it's just powered straight back out. And then I remember putting this on a Joe Morgan carp angle thing, and I got a bit slated for it, but I basically, because it is my job, like, to try and make some carp fishing films, as much as I'm there as a fisherman, and as much as I wanted to catch that fish, I'm also, they've taught me really well, you know, film it. I thought to myself...
Too well, if anything.
I thought to myself, well, the camera's literally 10 metres to my left. It's rolling. The fish is powered out now. I've kept the pressure on, but it's slowed down, and it's going to stick its head in some weed, cover its eyes, and it's going to stop. And it almost had done that. So I've set the rod down, open bail armed, jumped out of the tree, ran, got the rod, faffed around a little bit, setting the tripod up, because they've also taught me straight horizon, Alan. You know, straight. So I've got this straight horizon. I've got back up the tree, or grabbed the rod again, and yeah, wound down to it. Of course, it's solid. It's grated a couple of times. The fish kicks a couple of times more. I pull a little bit more, and then bang. Gone. And that was that. That was the end of that moment. Now, would it have been any different? It was a massive carp. Would I have landed it? Don't know. Never will know.
The biggest.
And I went back there every single time. And you can imagine every time I climbed out that tree, and looked over that big black hole, I just expect never saw it again. No. And it's so easy. And if Chloe watches this, or these boys know, I can tell a tale and stick a few pounds on, or a few extra this, and exaggerate it. And maybe I have exaggerated it. Maybe it wasn't that big. Maybe I was just caught up in the moment. But I'll go to my grave.
That was the big one.
I know what happened there and then.
Yeah.
I know what was in there. I know what was catching, and, you know, these commons, and don't know. It makes a lot of sense though, Hassan. You know, you hear about, there's a lake down here, Starlane. It's like 3 acres. Don't get me wrong, there is some big beds of reeds on there and little channels and that, but it's a very, very, very busy syndicate lake. Very busy. It gets hammered, you know. And that big linear or spike didn't come out for 3 years. You know, these fish, they can go uncaught, completely uncaught. There's fish up on the church, you know, that come out only once a year. There's other fish that come out 10 times a year. And you could think of countless examples where fish go completely off grid or don't get caught that often.
Especially in a water like that. It's
Mate,
exactly
you
got a
look
lot
at
of
this,
rod
it's just pads.
Yeah.
And snags. Just deep snags. Like, he can never come out of there if he didn't want to.
Yeah. Totally.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that was always then. We always set the film up for that. Everyone loves a big one. You know, everyone loves it. And we had to, although it was a lovely story, a beautiful syndicate, beautiful lake, everything I pointed the camera at just looked unreal. You want to finish on a big one. Yeah. That was, you know, it's a campaign at the end of the day. And the campaign typically is to catch your target fish. And we didn't know what he looked like.
We didn't know if there was a target fish. We just knew this. We've got this one shot of it going.
And that was the end goal. We also wanted to show the 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Fishing it. We weren't going to stop in winter. It was going to be the 4 seasons of fishing. And
that never happened, did it?
Yeah, I'll get onto it. And then the other thing we wanted to show was the otters and the predation. And the borrowed time aspect. And then the final thing was to fishing with John. And that was going to be for a different fish each season, wasn't it? It didn't all run.
None of it really worked out, like, at all. The otters never ate all the carp.
Yeah,
in fact, they didn't touch the carp at all.
Yeah, that was the That was the plan, the 4 elements of our film to make it this beautiful story, and that's fishing at the end of the day, isn't it?
Completely unbeknown to me. Fine, like it wasn't a problem, but the farmer decided to shut the venue, even though his PA eventually sent me the rules. It never stipulated any of this in the rules, but he shuts the venue from like the 1st of October till the 1st of March.
1st of November, end of October. End of October, yeah.
What? Yeah. I remember being up there with Dad. He'd come down and see us almost every session, and we'd
Lovely
have
bloke,
a lovely bloke. We'd have really great chats with him. And I remember one session saying to him, "Yeah, I'll be back next week." "Oh, no, the lake's shut now." "Do what?" "Yeah, it's shut now for the rest of the year until
March.
I was like,
Shooting.
"Man, there goes our film."
Oh, shooting.
Shooting season, yeah. So he'd shoot a lot on it. So
What was the other thing you just mentioned?
So then
The otters
The otters didn't eat
But
anything.
the thing is, John's very much the opinion that, especially in the valley, the otters aren't a threat. And if you look at the otter's feces, it's just crayfish.
Crays, mate,
It's just shells. It's just shells. We would often find ducks with missing heads, where they've just stripped the head off, or I don't know if that's a typical thing of an otter, but
Did we find a swan once?
I think we found a swan. But
I love the birds, man.
Yeah.
Other than these birds that they put on there was no grebes or dab chicks or moorhens, coots.
Now you think what's an easier meal? One of 20 carp in what would go down to probably 20 foot in places. One of these carp in this snaggy underwater jungle, one of 20 odd carp, a swimming fighting machine, or a duck of 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
So I don't think they were such a big threat. Don't get me wrong; they would attack carp because we saw it firsthand. The damage on the carp.
It was
they
old.
would eat fish, but
We filmed them eating the tench, didn't we?
You saw him eating tench.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they picked up tench.
Yeah.
we found their lair. Well, Al found their lair, and there was this tiny little spit. You had to go through the
I went
nettles
everywhere,
down.
Hassan.
I
I
only
went
imagine.
everywhere, mate.
And we went down, and it was like nettles, and it was down this hill and under this log, and this tiny little spit which come out into the lake, probably by 20 foot. And on the end of the spit, there's a couple of fallen trees, and often wood fish opposite over to it. Al's gone out on it one day, and in there is just their home, mate. It was just otter shit everywhere, crayfish shells.
It's really
everywhere.
interesting. Like they had a log
Yeah.
that ran across it, and that was their shit spot. And we filmed they'd actually get on the log and shit off it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they'd sit up on it and then shit off the back of it.
And
And that was where they went
and not
to
even
the toilet.
Yeah, it was like the remains of where they've obviously been crunching up the shells as well, not just in the shit. But birds, we find dead birds in there. We find pike skeletons. We'd find all sorts in there.
Yeah.
And so
Never
that's,
a carp.
That's where we put the trail cam, and we did. We saw loads. Big dog otter, couple of smaller ones, like. More than it wasn't just one or two. There was a family of them knocking about there.
But then the balance, like you say, they've got crayfish, they've got other pickings. They might have sampled a carp, but it's not like.
Don't get me wrong. If there's an easy meal, especially a dormant carp in winter, sure, I think they'll have a go. But spring and summer, that's not their easiest meal, and I think they're taking something else. But there was one really interesting morning where we hadn't seen any otters at this point. We'd seen the odd sign of otters. But we were a bit like, are they really a problem?
Yeah.
Probably not. And we'd done the night, blanked. We got up, done a lap, got back. Let's put some breakfast on. So we've got some sausages on. And I've heard
Sitting on a really high bank, it gave you a wicked vantage right down the length of the lake. But directly behind us, like literally to our back, was the back pool.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that small pool, which was 3/4 of an acre, we're looking out. Fishing
On the main body.
into the main body. Behind us in the little pool where I've seen nothing. Blair told me all these stories about loads of fish in there in the first couple of weeks, but then it gone dead. I've heard one. I've jumped out the bivvy, ran round. There's 3 fucking otters there.
Jeez.
It wasn't a show. It was an otter, and they were right here. And I've just gone.
What, while you're cooking breakfast?
Yeah, like making noise, talking.
9-10 a.m.
Behind the hide. There's literally a hide set up, and they are directly behind it. Yeah, 10 o'clock in the morning.
And I've just gone, camera. He's given me his camera. I had a shit lens on for it, like 16 to 35. So I couldn't zoom in that far, but I just needed to roll on them. zoomed in as much, and they were there, mate, and they did not give a shit about us.
No, absolutely no.
And like you say, it was just crunching on a tench, little tench, like
breakfast,
and they're all just like chirping to each other and diving down, and they didn't care about us. So we were right there, and these are meant to be wild.
I was going to say they
wild ones,
but we never saw that again.
No.
Yeah,
and unlike other venues I fish, we never saw them first thing in the morning. You never see them swimming across the water. The amount of river fishing I've done this year, you stay till after 10, like 9 o'clock in the winter, after 8 o'clock at night. You see them come down the river. They're everywhere, but we never saw them there
or heard them.
And if it weren't been the trial, no, not really heard them.
Yeah, if it weren't been for finding that layer and your trail cam,
correct, and that one chance moment when there was 3 of them there, like you wouldn't have really known they were there.
Yeah,
mad.
But that's when we did look at this place and go, oh, well, because we're not there every week. You know, sometimes we go 6 weeks without going.
Yeah. I don't know how many sessions we did in total in the end. 15?
Just
15
under,
nights?
I think more than 15 nights, but I think we did about 13 sessions, which would have been either a night or 2 nights, maybe.
And
3.
also, you think if it's shut between October and March, generally when fish are more dormant, there's nobody about, there's maybe a bit more of a potential for that predation to happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just speculation, I suppose.
So as the campaign went on, we did our first session with John, tench fishing.
Caught some.
Washout. There's some mega tension there, wasn't there?
I've got my PB. Yeah, I had my PB from there, like 8-4.
Yeah. Spent a morning tench fishing.
But it was livestock.
Yeah.
Really,
Livestock
really,
kittens.
really livestock. To the point that John, he hasn't used that one for his guide. And he said, if I had the time and I was going to try for a real big tench, I would do it here. And that got me all excited. You know, regularly I'd take a float rod with me and I'd always prime it up the night before with a few balls of ground bait. And I'd always get up and have a little fish. But the bulk of the time I'd blank.
Yeah.
The bulk of the time I blank. I caught 6-7 tench in the whole time I was on there, like fishing for them. Really low stocked, but they were all good ones.
None on the carp rods?
Not really.
Yeah,
the odd one. Yeah, the odd one or two.
But that session was quite funny because so they've come down, had a lovely chat. It's very Mr. Crabtree. It was a lovely chat in the morning at first light. They've got the tench rods out and they've fished through kind of that morning period, and I was obviously getting itchy feet, and so I was gone. I'm going to go have a walk up here into another one of the spots where we regularly find them. What I call like the back channel, the top channel, and it's right at the other end of the lake where it kind of flows out again. So we walked up there and we just said to John, we're going for a walk, and Al had a couple of carp rods out along with the tench rod. Just listen out for the rods. You know, 10 yards?
Yeah, like right next to him. Like
10 yards to the
just
right.
in the pads.
Yeah. So we walked all the way up to the end and we're looking about. Looks a bit clouded. Don't know if there's fish. Oh, there's a bream. Like, and I was just going, bib, bib, bib. Looked to me like
fishing. I'm fishing locked up because of the pads or very, very tight clutch. And 3 beeps is not.
But we're a long way. We're a couple of 100 yards away here. But you know, John's looking after the rods.
Yeah.
Or so we thought. and so we're a couple 100 yards away, and there's like there's like tree line, so tree after tree after tree, and we're behind all these trees. It was funny. It went beep beep beep, and Al just held the receiver beyond, like out from the trees. And he just went. so it was just the trees blocking that signal, and so as soon as he held it out, it just and we're just sprinting down there. It's like John will get it. Like
John will be on
sprint,
the rod.
sprint. John's just sat there watching a float.
The rod's just next to it.
But
What? He's not
the
got
head's
that?
the head's not. The head's
They're
off.
muted.
The head's silent.
But the clutch is just going. Zzz, it's only there. Zzz, John just not heard it. So I've gone straight past John to my cameras. John's like, "What is going on here?" Al's got it solid in the pads. Like John's like, oh, "You've got it."
I was fishing at my feet as well.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
fishing this really good spot, man. It had a lot of bites actually, like under this big old tree in like 12 foot of water. It was just out of bird reach, and it was a fucking good area there.
This is probably my favourite moment of the whole film in the end, like because it's solid. It's mid-July, beautifully hot day.
Yeah.
And I was gonna have to get in for it, pass the rod.
Basically,
to John.
every take you got to think, Hassan. Every take I got from there, I thought it was the big one.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I weren't, every single time I got a tag, I was like, this could be it. This could be the one. I lost that time.
But it was this wicked sequence where like Al then gets in, he swims out, John's just can't stop. He sounds like John Wilson. He just can't stop chuckling like the whole time. Al's gone out, he's like freed it, then swam back, and John's played. And they've kind of, as a team together, managed to get this fish in the net, and they both just look at each other like, Tench fishing went well then. Like, mate, it was wicked, and they've held it up. Lovely one, £26. John was blown away. Like it made a really, really cool morning. Yeah,
that's nice, mate. In terms of you talked about bait. You've talked a little bit about rigs and changing in amongst things over the course of the fishing, and sort of maybe towards the end of it. Did you feel that you'd done what you'd done, and the sort of magic of the place had melted away?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The more that I'd go there with Dan and do a lap and not see, if I'd have just seen that fish one more time, I could have done another year on there.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 100% Hassan. Or if I'd have seen it another time after that, I could still be on there now. But the fact that I'd had these repeat captures, the fact that every time I walked round, you start to not believe yourself. You start to think that moment never happened. You've over-exaggerated it all, Alan. The fish did get ottered. It did, you know, all of these things go through your head. And then you're also conscious that it wasn't my personal fishing time, you know. And there comes a point when, you know, Dan, myself, we have to go, look, we've got to film now. Let's just leave it at that. And do you know what? When I finally walked away from there, I walked away really happy. I walked away, you know, I'd had the best time with Dan. We'd really enjoyed our time together there. I'd caught some lovely fish in incredible surroundings. And in the back of my mind, maybe this big one is still in there. You know, I don't know. I do know. I don't know. I like that. I like the fact that I like the fact that I don't know. Yeah. I like the fact that there could be some, they were all special, but there could be something in there that.
And it just beat us.
It beat me. It beat me. And it's beat a lot of other people too, because if it is in there, like the lads I've spoke to, they're convinced it isn't in there.
Yeah. I think for me, like,
and I like that.
We turned up with so much mystery about the place. We turned up and we fished hard, and we caught a lot of fish, including these recaptures. And we kind of coming out of lockdown now. You know, there's grass greener. There's more things to go and do. But actually, on leaving, there was just as much mystery still there.
Yeah,
which is wicked, isn't it?
And I think
I like that.
Mate, I know what Al's like, and he played it down a little bit. He lost that other first one. You know, he said he lost 2 in that first pull. The second one, he's played it down a bit. He called me going, big un, breeze block. It come up the shelf, and he said that was a big un.
And I think I've caught that fish since.
Oh, do you reckon it was that deep one?
We don't really know, but I caught a common from there, spawned out at like 27-14. When you see the photos of it, it looks huge, mate, like a massive frame on it.
Deep thing, but
looks like
no
a
belly.
big bream, like a massive big bream. And if I had to call it, because of the colour of it, everything was really dark, but that fish was really grey. And that fish that come up the slope, when I had those other dark commons and the black tench and that there, I remember vividly thinking it was like the colour of your jumper. It was like a grey carp, like. And if I put 2 and 2 together, which could have easily, but this other one, this was black.
So like,
mental.
We have been going on, like, we come back after that period, the winter period where we couldn't go. We did some pike fishing with John, caught a nice pike for the film, lovely. But we come back after that. First session back, I think it was like early April, still cold. Like, you caught a really nice one, 30-pounder that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
But a lot of otter damage on the tail.
Yeah.
Which we hadn't seen that fish, but you know, almost half a tail missing, just the top, literally just the top load. There's a big spike. And again, it was just like, this thing's wrapping up, mate. This thing's wrapping up. We went back again. I think.
Then I caught that same fish again. Then I caught the koi again. And seeing the same fish time and time again. And I bought another ticket. Basically, because we'd lost that whole sort of 6-month period, I renewed the ticket for one more chance in spring. Because in my head, it'll be a repeat of the previous year.
Yeah, same place,
They'll all
same
get in the
time.
little bay.
Yeah.
They didn't really, or I weren't there at the right time, the crucial moment. There was a few in there, and I'm going to find this big one in the edge again. I'm going to find this, and Dan's going to be with me this time, and Dan's going to film it, and I'm going to catch it, and it's going to be
What an ending.
what an ending. And that never happened. We pushed it and pushed it and pushed it.
We said 3 times last session.
3
times we did last session. The second of those times, they started spawning. And we watched them for a long time that day.
Yeah.
You didn't even see it sort of spawning? You didn't
Again, you're talking about like they're spawning out in the lake.
Spawning
and
out in the
like,
pond. Like
in
the
pads.
Yeah.
So they're not trashed in the edge, they're in the middle block.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Just see the backs come out, and I got up a tree and I had a good look, but that was one group, and then like you said, there was another group in the pads spawning. But yeah, we went back, caught this. I think you had that ottered one 3 times.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
and then on the last session had him
but
again.
that in itself, this is where I start to think. I did this, the first part, the first spring and the summer or whatever.
2020.
Caught a load of fish. Never caught that one.
Yeah.
Gone back the following spring. Caught it 3 times in a matter of weeks, and that's what makes me think more and more. You can't catch them all. Certain fish come out and then don't come out, and
then
he could be one of them, mate.
could be one of them.
But he was 30,
31-ish.
32. Then
32.
you had the koi,
Yeah,
ghosty koi, the yellow one, £33. You had that.
yeah.
And like I was thinking on the way this morning, I knew I was doing this podcast, and we're like, oh, we didn't catch a bigger, and it didn't end how we wanted to. But then
is a big one.
you had £33, a £32, like untouched carp from
Special fish.
every one was wicked. My favourite one was that mirror that I wasn't with you at the time, with the 4 little scale. That was wicked fish. Like every one was wicked. Every one was so special, and every one we were so gassed about it. Even like the little ones with the little mouths, little commons, like every one was just awesome. And on the way in this morning, I was like, no, we smashed it. It was wicked. Yes, we didn't catch this uncaught 40, but I think it left this real nice note for us that, you know, we never turn the stone over. As mentioned earlier about every stone unturned, like it's still quite a mystery for me. Like I do think there's something special.
That's nice though, isn't it?
Because
hopefully someone will catch it, and one day someone will message us and go, "Yeah,
It
boys,
was it.
yeah, boys."
And
I'd guarantee it'll blow your mind.
I hope it's the teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's had it. He's definitely had it.
But one thing as well for me, like I said, on that last trip, I took a drone. I didn't take one for the entire thing because we didn't want to really do it. I took a drone, one to get some aerial shots of the lake just for reference, and curiosity got the best.
Yeah, of course.
Because we all know what a drone can see.
Yeah.
Everything. And I went round there, and the water at this point was gin clear. I could see the bottom. I could see everything. I could see the areas where it drops off, and the shallows, and all these like clay spots or gravel spots, and I see them all. I see all these carp like in the pads and that sort of thing. I never saw this £30 yellow one.
You didn't see the yellow one?
I didn't see him.
The most.
Yeah, and you'd see it from the
I
bank.
had 4 drone batteries at 40 minutes of drone battery, and I was up there for about 2 hours. I never see him. I went slowly and low over the
You see it
snow.
all the time, Hassan. You'd walk, if you did a lap or 2 laps, you'd find that fish.
He's a giveaway.
I'd
isn't
always
he?
find that
So
fish.
over these
Darren.
two days, I had the drone up for a couple of hours. Beautiful conditions, not a breath of wind. I never saw it. And I was in the, because I was looking for this big massive one. Oh, it's here. Right, we found it. It is
Another
here.
year.
I see a lot of fish that I recognise. I see the one with the damaged tail. I see the lockjaw one. I see some big fish. And I was like, where's this yellow one? But then if I haven't seen that, but then on the drone, I didn't see all of them. I know I didn't. And if I didn't see that, and then I'm looking at all these overhangs and snags
That's what I mean.
and lilies. and I just went,
Undercuts flowing through to the other. Like, they could be anywhere.
who are we to say it's not in there?
Yeah, exactly.
Who are we to say, oh, we would have caught it? Nah.
If I cleared your work diary now, mate, for however a month or whatever, you back there getting a ticket?
No, I wouldn't.
No?
I'm dumb.
Happy leaving it?
You're super happy. Loved it.
I think it's
absolutely loved it. What? No, I'm not going there to catch the same fish again. Like everything in life, Hassan, if you have too much to say and it ain't, and what made it special was not having that kind of fishing for so many years, getting that fishing back, doing it with someone, a great friend. It was everything, but it started to become samey. You know, there's only so many times you can cook the most ridiculous meals on an
What do you
open
have? You didn't
fire.
talk food.
But it wasn't. There's only so many times you see the barn owl, you know, on first light, or the muntjac, or I'd done it. It was done.
We ended up going for the wrong reason, not for the wrong reasons, but we were going there to then try and catch this big one, and we started to take all that other stuff for granted.
Yeah.
And that then started to take away the magic of why we actually went there in the first place, because we're going, need a big one. That's not what it's about.
No.
Do you know, even if this is on my life, if someone messaged me after this podcast comes out and said, I've had it, it's £51, I still wouldn't get a ticket.
No.
I'm done.
I would.
I'm done.
No,
I'm done.
We said, like, at the end of this film, we left and we kind of said, I actually hope no one ever I hope it's in there.
Yeah.
I hope no one ever catches it, and I hope the whole lake just gets lost in time. And it might be a really romantic way to look at it, a really airy fairy way to look at it, but we genuinely do think, like, that is then a little bit of that carp fishing.
Yeah.
That is just
Magic.
left to nature again, and we walk away, everyone walks away, and no one ever catches it, and it just lives out its life. For me, in my little romantic head of carp fishing, I'd love for that to be the case, really. Like,
in reality, the teacher's had it 3 times. He's not going to
He
tell
probably
anyone to
has,
his
mate.
grave.
He's probably had some mental carp out of there.
He's gonna
caught
take it to his grave.
the bloody 50 again.
Flop that back.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe not. But for me, there was a period of, are we ever going to finish this? But now, like, looking back on what we had, I was like,
Yeah, mega.
It's wicked. We had big fish, mate.
We had somewhere else to get going to.
Well, that's
That was a
part
big.
two.
That was another big reason to.
To get off.
Yeah.
Move on
get
to
off.
pastures new.
So this will be, I know you wanted to quickly talk about the food as well. I know we've been waffling on for a long time now. We made, like Al said, no Air Maxes, no urban banks. That means no Wagamamas ordered to the
No
bank.
drum and bass, no takeaways,
no McDonald's, no KFC, and we ate good.
We ate
good. Yeah, just good.
just
And because I had the
build on
time, Hassan.
Yeah, yeah,
had the time to cook. It weren't like a, food.
everywhere.
I know Samir mentioned it with Orlan. I ain't got, and he's right, and I am that guy as well. And I ain't got time. Food's the last thing on my priorities list. But when you got 2 days in paradise and the rods are out, mate,
It'd be rude not to. Yeah,
I'm definitely going to cook some good food.
Yeah.
Sea bass, avocado, and salad was a good one.
Yeah.
We
Just
built
good.
on it. We built on it we're trying to, like, almost outdo each other every time.
Dan did chips one night. I was like, no, I want. What did you do?
Chicken gyros.
Chicken gyros, like with like mental like chopped tomatoes and onions and salad and yogurt and mint dips. And I was like, he's like, what do you want with it? I was like, chips. He's like, what do you mean chips? I was like, I want chips.
Yeah, triple
He's
good.
like, how am I gonna, yeah. How am I
Yeah,
going to
go big.
I said, you have to do it. And that's where it got to, weren't it? Who could put on the
frying
most?
pan, oil, frozen chips, and then fried them on the bang, and then had them in the gyros. And we upped it. But the ultimate final one, which I'm gutted we never actually got around to doing, we said for the last session we're going to cook an underground lamb.
Yeah.
Underground.
Yeah.
So we were going
In the bunker.
We got to do that, Dan. We still have to do that.
Yeah, we'll do it at some
We'll do it on the end. We're making a third film, and maybe at the end of the third film, we can have a beer or a glass of wine or whatever and celebrate it with John, and we'll do the underground lamb.
You need to do it in the bunker, don't you?
Yeah,
The bunker's gone, by the way. Someone robbed us.
Someone did find it.
Yeah, it got found, and all the bait got taken. Not there weren't much left, but 20 kilos or someone's had it off.
And the
whether
water
it's the
boxes.
gamekeeper. Or, I don't know. One of the syndicate members.
The teacher.
Someone.
The teacher. He's now on Nash Bait.
Yeah.
Someone cleared us out.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, we wanted to dig a hole, put a lamb, fill it with hot coals, put a lamb wrapped in foil in it, bury it, leave it for 8 hours, dig it up that evening, and have that would just be carpy AF, wouldn't it?
Share it with some
It'd be
otters.
delicious.
Yeah. So,
Happy day.
but yeah, so we that was that campaign. It was beautiful. It was amazing. It was a wicked year. You know, we went in with no signal. It was just me and Al, the lake, the most beautiful sunrises, mist rolling through the valley. It was just a time in my life I'll never forget. It was wicked. But it was the first of 3.
Watch the film and be ready for parts 2 and 3 subsequently.
So we filmed. Part 2's finished.
I filmed it.
When's I hope part 3's on that very special lake.
No, part two is on that lake.
Special lake.
Brilliant.
And
Part 2 is mental.
Send me the
I
rough
can tell,
draft.
mate. I can
What
tell.
can we tell them? Just quickly for the last couple of minutes. Part 2 was 9 days angling. That's it.
It was in the end, yeah.
9 days fishing.
Days only, isn't it? You said that before.
Days only.
8:30 till 5, and a
Big
phenomenal amount of blanking. No, phenomenal
Tricky,
amount of
mate.
blanking. If think it's just 9 days, the bulk of it I blanked. John never had a bite
Days.
in 9 days.
Yeah, it's days as well, wasn't it?
Days, Hassan. Who wants
I know,
who wants to be
I know.
tipping up at 8:30 anywhere? I want to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning, mate.
it's
Or
like-
I want to do the night.
It wasn't even 8:30. It was annoying because it was 8:30 through the gate. So, but
So by the time you're fishing 9:15, 9:30, 9:30, then you got to
Stuff
get
out.
back to the motor. So you're finishing at like 4:45. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's hard.
But
That's like match fishing.
yeah, there's some good ones in there.
He's excited. Just by the look on his face. I can tell he's had an absolute
such
set.
an
After this pod, I'm going to
opportunity.
punish you for some pictures, mate, because it must be.
Have
pretty
you not seen
special.
any?
I ain't
yet?
seen
Oh,
it.
Hassan,
I'll show
wait
you,
till
mate.
see
I've
this.
seen nothing.
It's ridiculous.
And then part 3, we were going to film this year. Both too busy, so we're going to start in next year.
Yeah, so the first one's obviously just come out. As you hit, or right now, it'll be a couple of weeks, but as you listen to this podcast, it should just have come out. The second one's in the bag. We'll release next year, and then we'll film the third one next year to release the year after that.
3-part trilogy.
Borrowed time 1, 2, and 3. I think.
Love it. Boys, thank you very much for
Thank you,
your time.
Hassan.
Thank you.
I hope
mate.
you guys enjoyed the video and you enjoyed listening to the podcast. I certainly enjoyed it. It stoked my fire for a bit of, different campaign angling.
Yeah.
I will see you all again soon with another Nash Off the Hook podcast. Until then, chaps, thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
See you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
See you later.
Thank you, Hassan.